scam.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising. So normally I don't entertain what's going on social media. But for the last couple of days, those guys from the Finest Unfiltered been speaking a lot about DEI, qualifications, discretionary promotions, specifically captains to deputy inspector, and racial discrimination. In order for them to prove that white men are being racially discriminated against, they utilized a research that Columbia University did. And what Columbia University did is they looked at all the captains that got promoted from captain to deputy inspector, and they broke it down by race and age, and they figured out how long it took for each category to get promoted. So I'm just going to specifically talk about white men versus black men, but they had Asians, they had white women, black women, broken down. But according to their research, white men took an average of 6.9 years to get promoted from captain to deputy inspector. Conversely, black men took an average of 3.3 years to get promoted from captain to deputy inspector. Now, if you're just looking at those numbers and you don't know better, if you're not a part of this job, or if you didn't rise to the level of executive or captain, like those guys from the Finest Unfiltered, they might be ignorant to certain things. So I'm here to educate you guys. So let's talk about that research. The numbers are skewed, and I'm going to tell you why. In order to get promoted from captain to deputy inspectors and deputy inspector, there's certain routes you can take. Now, there's a route that's pretty unpleasant, where you got to put in a lot of work, but you're going to achieve that goal of deputy inspector quicker. And that route is the patrol route. It's the route I took. So you get promoted to captain, you become an executive officer in the command, number 2, right? And that position is going to come with shitty hours, patrol duties, traffic stat, graffiti stat. There's a lot of things that come with that. You're going to be in uniform, and you're going to spend a lot of time at work and lose a lot of time with your family. So when I got promoted to captain, I took that route. I was the executive officer of the 6-1 precinct. I did that for about a year. Then I transferred to the 6-0 precinct, where I was still an executive officer. I did that for about a year. And then I received my own command, the 6-1 precinct. I was a commanding officer. And after a year of doing that, I got promoted to deputy inspector. So a little over a year. So it took me about 3.5 years to get promoted to deputy inspector. Now that's the average time, 3 to 4 years to get promoted to deputy inspector if you take that route. Now, if you pool 100 captains, right? I guarantee you 50 of those captains, let's just say 40 are white, but 15 are black. And out of those 15 black captains, 14 of those 15 are taking the route of patrol, the grunt route. Because a lot of black officers is not going to get the opportunity to go to certain places, but that's a whole different story. Now, conversely, white men, and just say 50 white men, white captains, men specifically, out of those 50, only probably 10 is going that patrol route, which would afford them to get promoted to deputy inspector in that 3 to 4 years. But the majority of white captains are going through the investigative route. And historically, everybody knows if you go through the investigative route, it's going to take you longer to get promoted to deputy inspector. Why? The benefits of going that route is better hours, you're not in uniform, you don't have the duties as much, you get to spend more time with your family, you're probably going to be off on the weekends. And most people take that route because they want to be in that type of unit, things they love to do, things they can use when they leave this job. They might go to Intel, Detective Bureau, these specialty units. And we know it's going to take longer for you to get promoted if you go that route. So now you pull those 50, out of those 50, 40 of them is taking that other route. That route, sometimes they never make deputy inspector, and they're okay with that. Sometimes it can take 10 years, 15 years. If you average that pool, you will get about 6.9 years compared to black captains who 99% of them is taking a patrol route. So those numbers are skewed, and if you don't know better, you present that to the world looking from outside the bubble, they're going to say, yeah, white men are being, their progression is being slowed down. But if you from within and you went through the rank and you understand as an executive, those guys are not. You will understand it depends on what route you take. And most black men take the route of patrol, which is more difficult, but it's going to get you promoted quicker. So that research from Columbia makes no sense. You comparing apples to oranges. If you want to really do analysis, just analyze the captains that go the patrol route. And then now you measure how long it takes for white men that go only the patrol route versus black men that goes the patrol route. And I guarantee you those numbers will be closer. Do more research. Grand Rising.
All right, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Attention, roll call.
Good morning, 8:05 live Eastern time, but now it's about 8:12 after we just listened to that masterpiece. Thank you to former retired Chief Faison. Thank God, if that was rhetorically speaking, thank God that wasn't a plane. Keep in mind, this guy was the former chief and he was in charge of aviation. So if that was a plane, that would have crashed and burned. That was based on absolutely zero data. So you don't get to argue data-based information with completely opinion-based and emotion. There's no data in that. So let's talk about that. What we just heard here was Comstat math, or this was the same math that Eric Sanders and his crew was using to explain the law of the pensions, where you take 694 and divide it by 211 and you get 3/4. This
And
was
racism.
just what's that?
And racism.
And racism, right? So if you listen to former retired Chief Faison, there was absolutely no data. So let's use his analogy for metric and measure. He says that more white captains take the easier route. So I just want to let all the captains know right now, if you're in the NYPD, that if you go the patrol route, that is a more, apparently, according to retired Chief Faison, that's an easier route. So all the people in investigative units, your job is easy. So he just basically told you your job shit. Now, I wouldn't say that captains that take the investigative route is an easier route. I would say it's a different route. It's a different type of work. So I think an investigative route is very important. I wouldn't say it's easier. I wouldn't say one is harder than the other or more difficult. But being in charge of a command, in my opinion, the reason why that is the opportunity for ladder is because that is a complete leadership role, not just investigative. So to say one is more difficult than the other is a stupid argument. I would say that the argument is that in a patrol command, you are taking a complete leadership role, and that's why you should get the opportunity to elevate. But his argument also is based on zero data. He said, I can guarantee you 40%, 50% of whites are going the investigative route. Where did you get that data from? Where is that data? I want to see the data because that is just pure speculation. Also, according to his argument of DEI, he just completely debunked his own argument, because if the route to get promoted is better, yes, according to you, it's hard work, but if that's the route, so you're saying that more black men get that opportunity than white men. If that is your argument, then why? Why do they get that opportunity more than white men? So I just think that there's absolutely no data in this argument. I'm really surprised. I mean, I've watched retired Chief Faison's interview on the Sal Greco show, and I thought he did a good job. I thought that, I thought initially he was a DEI hire. It turned out it was quite impressive, his resume, but I'm not impressed with his argument here. It sounds like he's doing dirty work for people out there to try to debunk the Finest Unfiltered with pure DEI data. There was absolutely no data in that argument. Anyway, Monday morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're awake. It's a 3-day weekend, right? Supporting and celebrating Martin Luther King. John, let's jump right into it. What do you think about this? To me, I thought this was like when you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, like he was going to fly the plane, but nah, crash and burn. What do you think?
I mean, look, first off, everybody, happy Martin Luther King Day. I think it's a little. I think we're going to get a lot of shit for this today, I'm sure, but it is what it is. It needs to be talked about. There's a bunch of things that are coming out, right? We've been pointing out a lot of stuff about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it really flies in face of the message of Martin Luther King and the founding of this nation and Bill of Rights, right? And our Declaration of Independence. So all of the stuff around DEI really goes against equal opportunity law. So Chief Faison and a lot of other people, not just him, a lot of people are coming at us in a way. Oh, you guys are trying to do anything to prove that white men are being discriminated. Again, we didn't really label out if it was white men. We just showed numbers. Numbers infuriate people for some reason. And now the message from him and other people is that study didn't come out from Columbia University. It, in fact, came out from Columbia University and the Police Management Institute. So I don't know what the argument is there. I don't really know what they're talking about, but the data is the data. The data is the data, and sitting there and making this an issue of white men versus black men is really just dumb, because what we're saying is discrimination is discrimination. And if the roles were reversed, there would clearly be a problem here. There would clearly be a problem here. If it took 7.2 years for black men to get promoted from captain to deputy inspector, and it took Asian men 3.3 years, there would be a problem, right? And so Winston Faison makes the claim that, well, white men traditionally don't go the commanding officer route. Now, I agree with Eric. I love to see the data on that. But I just want to remind everybody that it's not so easy for white men today to become commanding officers, right? And there is a clear push in the NYPD, and there's been since 2013, where it's anybody but a white man. And we've heard it spoken. We've seen it written into law. We're going to go into highway patrol and the steps they were taking, and we're going to show you the documentation and the steps they were taking to basically, in their words, diversify the highway unit. But I'm going to just say to discriminate against white men, because it's written into their policy. It's not something we're pulling out of our butt. Like Faison, a lot of people are trying to push diversity, equity, as inclusion as a great thing, but yet everybody's been invited on this show. Everybody's willing to come tell us where it's been successful and where it's great, and no one wants to come on here and talk. And we let people talk. We had Hiram Monserrati on. We gave him the floor. We had Zohran Mondani on here. We gave him the floor. We had Cop Watch on here. We gave him the floor. I mean, yeah. Did we ask questions? Did we ask pointed questions? Yeah, but we're not trying to beat anybody down, and we're not trying to win an argument. We're just showing what we're showing, and the numbers don't lie. 7.2 years for Asian captains to get to deputy inspector, 3.3 years for a black male, 2.8 years for a black female. And now couple that with all of the literature and all of the stuff that has came out in the newspaper. Oh, let the community pick commanding officers so that the commanding officer looks like the community they serve. We have too many men. We don't have enough people of color, so we're going to give these people mandatory interviews. We're going to get into the highway unit. And then we're also going to show you what happened on the NYPD sergeant's exam. We're going to go through all that today. And I think, honestly, I really feel bad for people that are so hooked on trying to win arguments and looking for anything that they could grab a straw at to win. We're not trying to win an argument. I just think that discrimination in any shape, way or form is wrong. And if you're trying to justify it, I mean, it just shows me who you are, and it tells me how you feel about me, and it tells me what you think about others that are different from you. So I mean, you're really exposing yourselves, in my opinion, all of you. So everyone that's not willing to say what's wrong, call bullshit when it's bullshit, you're exposing who you are. And to me, it's not a good look, man. I want to sit there and I want to just say, you know what, they're incompetent, they're stupid, but I don't think you guys are that incompetent, and I don't think you guys are that stupid. I think there's a lot more devious stuff behind the words that are being used and the things that are being said, and how that whole argument that's being presented is that we're trying to prove that white men are being discriminated. We're not trying to do anything. We stated facts. We're showing you data, and you're talking on emotion. That's the difference.
Yeah, it's not that easy to come on camera with a cohesive and argue a cohesive point, is it? And I've asked him the same question you have about the chart and the data, and how it's not working out for Asians. I still haven't gotten a response. He just said that all he said was that the chart is flawed, but no explanation of how it's flawed exactly. When the data comes from Colombia, and they had access to the NYPD's own internal data for it.
And Marlon, it's every captain from 2015, 2016, 2017. So it's not like there was an excluded group or group that was included. This is the data from every promotion and every captain.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's important. There's data versus speculation. And his argument is just based on speculation. He said, I'll guarantee you, and gave you numbers of 40, 50%, but completely based on his own opinion and speculation.
Yeah. So morning, guys. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope everyone didn't get hit too hard. We got like an inch, maybe two last night. So I was up until like 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, shoveling the front and my neighbors. So, but hope everyone's doing well today. It's like we've been saying for a while now, and now that we're getting more information and more internal data, you can't dispute this, you can't dispute this. And as I said before, DEI is really a cover for austerity measures. It's an emotional appeal that meant to ease in those austerity measures. And as we're going to get to highway and what they want to do in terms of lowering the standards there, you're getting the quality of product you're getting is a diminished product. Okay. But because they want to put a minority face on it, again, they want you to be okay with it. Want you to be okay with having diminished service and a diminished quality of NYPD. Okay. So we got a lot to talk about this, and John is right. A lot of people are going to be upset, but it has to be said,
Well, it's just another episode of On the Finest Unfiltered, where the truth hurts. And that's what this is about. This is not about making an argument to prove that white men are discriminated against. The premise of this argument, or putting out information and showing the data of DEI, is to show that there's just pure discrimination. And I've said this before. This discrimination could go full circle and could go not make a 180, could actually make a 360, where we could come back to discrimination again. Right? Because in order to diversify without qualifications, groups have to be discriminated against. So if eventually the tides have to turn to bring this back to an organic appearance of diversity, we would have to discriminate against another group, which means now it's top heavy with black and brown. We would have to discriminate against black and brown to put more whites and put more Asians. That's wrong too. There shouldn't be any form of discrimination. That's what we're saying. I don't believe in reverse discrimination. Discrimination, period, is wrong on all levels. Brother Rob Lukash in the chat right now. Good morning. Love you, brother. He says the upper echelons do not ask you what route you want as an executive. You are told where you're assigned. Then if you're tabled for years as an XO, you look for a different route. So that's a great point, right? So anyone active or retired you pretty much understand the framework for what Rob Lukash is saying. If you're a police enthusiast or outside the NYPD, another agency, basically what that means is if you're assigned as executive officer, in order to get to a point that you're going to get promoted from captain to deputy inspector, you have to find yourself in a position as a commanding officer in charge of a precinct, a PSA, or transit, right? That's the patrol side of things. And what retired Chief Faison was talking about was the investigative side, right? If a captain is assigned to the detective bureau, even as a commanding officer of the detective bureau, it's much different. And usually it's not a route to get promoted. It's an investigative route. Doesn't mean that they're not working hard. I don't agree with what retired Chief Faison said. It just means it's less of a leadership role and more of investigative work. You are in a leadership role, but just different on a smaller scale. And so if you're an XO and you're doing this for years, moving around, I've seen it with my own eyes. All right. He's on the job right now. His name is I think he's a DI right now, Deputy Inspector Baki, but he was a captain for 6 years at PSA 7 as an executive officer. 6 years, was never afforded the opportunity to go into the commanding officer role. Very knowledgeable, easily could have been a commanding officer 3-4 years before he shopped around. And because of former Mayor Bill de Blasio, because of the information that we put out that certain groups were underrepresented, Captain Baki could not find himself in a position where he could get promoted to commanding officer, and he had to shop around. And finally went to the 106 precinct. I guess because of the 106 precinct, they looked more like him, that he was in a position to get promoted, and still spent another 2 years there working his ass off. So that was about 8 years to get promoted to deputy inspector. So I think that retired Chief Faison, his argument is based completely on speculation, and it's also a deflection from you looking at the data. He's telling you an argument based on zero data, but yet telling you that the data for Columbia University is skewed. And if it is skewed, give us the counter data to show why it's skewed and how it's skewed. So completely based on opinion, yet giving you numbers. In fact, that is not how you win an argument. And we're not saying you should win an argument, but if the argument is to find the truth, you need data in comparison to other data. No metric or measure there at all.
His argument, honestly, I lost brain cells trying to even listen to it, because the thing is, like, when we're starting the argument and you're going on you're just basically completely pass over that it takes Asians 7.2 years. You don't even argue. You don't have an argument. You don't even acknowledge it. And the thing is, like, my problem, and it's been my problem for a long time, is I don't believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. I believe that diversity, equity, inclusion is illegal. I believe it violates equal opportunity law. I believe it violates the founding doctrines of this country. I believe it's totally discriminatory. And it right now, yeah, is it discriminatory towards whites, towards Asians, towards Hispanic females? Yeah, based on the numbers, it's clear as day. Based on the numbers and what we see, 100%. It is when we're talking NYPD promotions. Now, when we talk about transfers or anything like that, it's the same thing, right? We want to change the makeup of it, how this unit looks. We don't want it to look pale, male, and stale, right? Like, that's what they're saying. They want to change all of this. So it's discriminating against people based upon either their gender or their skin color. Yeah, and like I said, right now it happens to be whites. But right now it happens to be whites and Asians. But in 10 years now, it could easily be black and brown people. So I don't understand, like, what people aren't seeing about how this is discriminatory or not. When you turn around and you're like, oh, well, there's been white DEI for the last 400 years. That tells me that you really have a chip on your shoulder and you're okay with discriminating against white people because you feel that you've been discriminated and now it's your time to discriminate. I never discriminated against anybody. I don't want it to be done to me. I don't want it to be done to my children. I don't want it to be done to you. I don't want it to be done to your children. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care who you sleep with. I think diversity, equity, inclusion is wrong. I think it's incompetent. We're going to really get into why it's incompetent when we talk about the sergeant's test. But let's just go on to what we unleashed yesterday about the NYPD's Highway Unit. Someone on here saying that SCUBA and ESU are the only units left. I'm going to say it's probably only SCUBA, because I know for a fact that ESU has been dumbed down, and we'll get into that at a later date. But ESU, the requirements to get into ESU have been dumbed down in order to meet the same diversity goal. And to me, that's a problem, because we're putting out, like Marlon said, we're putting out an inferior product to get this unorganic, this artificial look of a unit. It's the dumbest thing I could hear. Let's put an unqualified woman in there because we need more women. I mean, it's the dumbest thing I could think of. So let's talk about what happens in highway. So this is a document from 2024. This comes right from the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And it just shows how far New York City and the NYPD is willing to go to, in what they call, meet diversity or diversify a unit. And to me, what it says, when I hear those words, I hear, we want to discriminate. We want to discriminate, and we're going to break the law. That's when I hear that. That's what I hear. Sorry. And I'm going to show you why, in fact, that's true right now. So diversity, equity, inclusion identifies that nearly all of the NYPD highway units are 100% male, and it's a big problem. It has nothing to do. Think about this. Like, if you're the overall, you're in charge of the NYPD, or you're in charge of any organization, why are you going to look to make a change? You're going to look to make a change because there is a problem in how efficient your organization is running, in how competent your organization is running. You're going to change something because there is a problem. You're not going to bring a problem in and be like, all right, we need to fix this problem that I just created. People are going to be like, what are you talking about? Everything's working fine. Our business is operating. We're making money. Why are we now shifting our resources and our brain power and our time and our efforts to fix a problem that no one else has but us? And so that's basically what happens is equity inclusion says it's a problem because there's not enough females in there and it's too heavy with white people. So we need to fix it. So the solution that they came up with was to lower the standards to get into the highway unit, to discriminate against white men, and to give preferential treatment to women and people of color to get in. So they said, they went as far as to say what I have up now is the clutch. So currently NYPD Highway Patrol drives Harley Road Kings. And those get changed out from depending on the organization. On Highway Patrol, some of them drive different types of Harleys, right? But the clutch on a Harley is pretty big. With that being said, there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of women who actually drive Harleys every day and do not have a problem operating a Harley clutch. So what Diversity, Equity, Inclusion said is that they wanted to modify the clutch on the Harley Davidson, essentially feminize the clutch. So what the mechanics in the NYPD said, they said, well, it's kind of a problem. One, you're spending a lot of money to do this. We're going to spend a lot of money. Two, we could possibly run into safety issues, warranty issues, and technical issues. It could lead to a lot of problems with the operation of our motorcycle, which essentially affects public safety, which essentially not only endangers the public, but endangers the officers in Highway Patrol, as well as every officer in the NYPD. And the amount of money. Now think if we have a brand new Harley Davidson and we put a aftermarket clutch on to make it easier, and we basically voided that warranty on that Harley Davidson. Now that the department's coming out for thousands should anything go wrong on that Harley Davidson, and it would have been covered under that warranty. And that happens a lot with a lot of the equipment that we purchase. So that's one. They go on to do that, and then they want to create, the other thing is they want to create a special training session solely for women. And any woman, regardless if she's qualified, not qualified, doesn't matter. They're going to give this preferential tutorial, and they're 100% guaranteed an interview. Now, for those of you that work in the NYPD or don't, so like to get an interview into some units is almost impossible. You can't even get the interview. So now you're being guaranteed an interview based solely upon your gender. That was going to be day one of that training. And then they would do whatever they needed to do to get you to pass that test. The second day was going to be targeted towards people solely of color. So why is that a problem? And I'm going to tell you why it's a problem. Because it's giving preferential treatment to people based upon the color of their skin or based upon their gender. How would you feel if I became the police commissioner and I said, you know what? We're having a problem with Italians because they're too short. So we're going to lower the Harleys. We're going to put the springs in. We're going to lower the Harleys because we need more Italians, because I want a bunch of paisans driving motorcycles with a slick back hair, or I want a lot of bald guys on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to get these Italians. We're going to give them their own training session. They're going to be guaranteed an interview. And we're going to basically do anything we need to do, spend any amount of money we need to in order to achieve this goal. I would hope and I would think that Noble, the Guardians, Eric Sanders, Winston Faison, Corey Pegues, I would hope that you guys would say, wait, that's wrong. That's discrimination. How are you just leaving out groups of people? How are you just giving preferential treatment to Italians? I would hope you guys would say that, and I think you would. So why are we not saying it here?
Yeah. Well, several things. I don't understand why certain people think that if we attack DEI, that it's an attack on them. They think it's like an attack on their tribe, so to speak. And I just don't understand it, because if you were a hardworking cop, if you were a go-getter and you hardworking, and you went on the grind as soon as you became a cop, and you learned and you progressed your way through, then why should you care if people if we criticize DEI and we say it should be removed? Because if you did all the work that you should have, you should be a huge fan of a meritocracy. So I wonder, if we were to look at the, say, if you use your arrest record on the job as a measurement of how much hard work you put into it when you were a cop, right? If you were to look at all those people who criticize DEI, would I find an arrest record similar to, say, Tariq Shepard's with his 22 collars, or Eric Adams with his supposed 12 collars? Which would indicate that you really weren't a hard worker there. Okay, would I find that if I look at it? I'm thinking I would, and maybe I need to start looking at all those who criticize us to see what your arrest record is. Because again, if you're a hardworking cop, I don't care if you get rid of DEI. Let's get rid of it. Let's do it now. Get rid of it, because I know that I was a hard worker, and I'm going to work my way to getting what I want from my career. Now, the other question I have is, why does everyone think that every unit is suitable for them? I mean, why not everyone, but why do these people think that every unit is suitable for everyone? Because I wouldn't think I can make ESU. First of all, I can't swim, so I couldn't make ESU. But why? It's like me wanting to get rid of the swimming portion of ESU so I could get in. To me, I just don't understand. There's some units that you're better qualified for than others. Okay, and we need to the job needs to stop trying to put a square peg into a round hole just to look good on paper. And when you're taking away the basic, when people can't pass the basic functions to get into those units, and you're changing the basic functions of that unit, then what are we doing here? What are we doing here? But yeah, I'm gonna say that I this meme is it's funny, but it's kind of sad that it's the direction that we're headed to. In a couple of years, if we keep going down this road, they're going to have to change the Harleys, you know, just like they did with the trigger pull and the Glock firearms, you know, when they you know, they changed the trigger pull from I believe it's around 4 to 12. You know, now we've gone back, but I have to wonder here now if the next step is not just to modify those bikes, but to maybe make a call to Harley and ask them for like a, you know, specific bikes that cater to the NYPD's need to diversify these units, to diversify highway.
Well, frankly, I think that DEI is literally violates the law. I think morally it violates the law. Violates the law. But I think what's most important, I think that DEI is dangerous. So, for instance, let's say we were talking about a different profession, right? Because we see DEI eradicating in different professions, not just law enforcement. What if we started to implement DEI in the medical field, and we said, you know what, we need a certain amount of gynecologists. We need a certain amount of heart surgeons to diversify. And we start lowering the standards for heart surgeons, right? One thing we know about heart surgeons, right? A myth I always heard about heart surgeons is they have to have a steady hand, right? So what if we start to diversify heart surgeons, and lower the standards so that more black and brown or more people of smaller stature can become heart surgeons? I think, frankly, it's dangerous because now we're putting lives at risk. So let's transpose and let's go back to talk about law enforcement. Now, wheel school, and I see some people actually mention it here in the chat. Thank you, by the way. I love the engagement. Wheel school is pretty damn tough, right? You first of all, to ride a Road King, okay, a Road King is a heavy bike, right? It's a heavy bike. It's a lot of bike. Anyone that rides bikes knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's a lot of bike, right? That's the type of bike that if you're new and if that bike is going down, you don't try to save it. You get out of the way. That bike's going down. You're not going to stop. It's approximately 825 pounds. Who is a Road King for? It's for someone that's experienced riding bikes and someone that has the physical agility and capabilities, because riding a Harley Davidson Road King is pretty physically demanding if we go by the actual standards. And what's also demanding about wheel school or riding a Harley, especially a Road King, is having experience in understanding and reading the road, right? Being able, because riding a bike is more psychological than physical, but there is a big physical component to it. So if we lower the standards, it becomes dangerous, right? It's important, even in wheel school, and I think someone mentioned it here, that people have to pick it up from the ground, right? And that's not easy, right? It's about 825 pounds, because that is a test. It's a metric of measure where highway personnel are pressure tested to make sure that they can withstand that particular bike. So picking up from the ground is one of those tests. Now, if we lower the standards, we actually have to get a different style of bike, a lighter bike, something that's more for a beginner, right? A Harley Road King is for someone that's experienced. We want experienced people in specialized units who do special things, not lowering the standards. I think lowering the standards actually makes it dangerous. DEI is not just morally wrong and violates the law. It's dangerous. We need qualified people. And if we have people that are weaker stature, we don't have people that have the ability to ride bikes, especially have that psychological ability to read the road, it makes it more dangerous. We should have the most qualified people riding those bikes. And you see the comparison that was up here before from 2020 to 2030. You can see the physical stature of the highway patrolman in 2000 and 2020, far different than this picture you see here, right? It's funny, but it's true. It shows you the correlation and where we could get to at this point. This is completely dangerous. So anyone, shout out if you're on highway right now or trying to get the highway, shout out to you. Wheel school is very demanding, and it's supposed to be demanding because it's a damn tough job. And that you have to be able to control that bike. It's necessary. I just think this is dangerous.
Again, it's just lowering standards. So when we talk about highway training, and someone just said on here that Oh, well, I think people are having problems passing the motorcycle school. Okay, so if in general there's problems with people who are not trained to drive motorcycles any longer, or kids that growing up not driving clutch manual motorcycles any longer, then there should be a training for all, which is consistent with equal opportunity law. It's consistent with New York State human rights law. It's consistent with the Constitution of the United States. It's consistent with Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII. When the minute I say we're going to do this for females, or we're going to do this for males, or we're going to do this for white males, or we're going to do this for black males, the minute I do that, or we're going to do this for Jews, or we're going to do this for Catholics, or we're going to do this for Muslims, the minute I do that, that, my friends, is called discrimination. That violates the law. It's like, this isn't hard, people. It's not. And the argument consistently that's been coming up like this last week on all of my stuff is, John, you're not looking at the history of it. I'm like, okay, the history of this country is that it was systemically racist. It was systemically discriminatory. And we've worked and achieved great strides since that point, where the majority of us, especially in New York City, came from absolutely nothing, regardless of your background, whether you're Puerto Rican, whether you're Dominican, whether you're Italian, whether you're Irish, whether you're black, whether you're Polish, whether you're Russian. We all share this one good common trait of poverty, right? We all came from absolute shit, working class families who were treated like garbage, right? That's the shared commonality that the majority of us have in New York City. And so to sit there and start to assign privilege to people because of their perceived being part of a group. Oh, look at you, John, you're white. Oh, look at you, Eric, you're white. Oh, look at you, Marlon. You're not really black. You're half black. You're a light-skinned black. You didn't appear. And we start assigning groups to everybody. It's called discrimination. So in highway, to take the highway exam, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you really have to be able to drive a motorcycle solid. Like, there's dudes that drive motorcycles every day that won't pass that test because they have to do a lot of things. They have to take that Harley Davidson and they got to drive that Harley Davidson downstairs. They have to drive that Harley Davidson in the sand. They have to make that bike perform like almost as if it's part of their own body. And the reason that they have to do that is because they're going to be in high pressure, high tension situations, whether they're doing a simple escort, an executive escort, whether they're responding to a 911 call, or they're transporting people to a hospital, not transporting, but escorting ambulances, or possibly even being involved. I mean, I know that we don't want cars to be involved in motorcycles to be involved in a vehicular pursuit, but from time to time it will happen. And if you're not able to handle that motorcycle, your life is in serious danger. Like, we're setting you up for failure. It's like putting somebody in a unit like scuba or something like that, or harbor, and they can't swim. Did we make that unit better? Did we make that unit more competent? Or did we just put some bullshit diversity tag on this unit and be like, oh, look, here you go. We have the first of this or the first of that. And when you look back in history, you're not really the first of anything, because black and brown people have been in all of these units for a very long time. So, I don't know what you could award yourself the title, but it doesn't make it true. And what we did is ultimately we put your life in danger because we wanted to celebrate virtue signal on social media. And then we actually put the public in further danger. And that's what's being asked here, is saying, well, we're just going to dumb this down. And, you really don't have to know how to drive a motorcycle. You really don't have to be able to do this. You really don't have to be able to do that. And then guess what? Your elite unit is no longer elite. The services you provide, you're no longer being asked to provide because you don't do them competently. And that's what's happening here. And it's happening in every unit in the NYPD. It's happening in every agency across New York City. And it's completely discriminatory. It's completely illegal. And I can't believe that we have law enforcement officers cheering it on because, history. It's like, all right, so history is America's discriminatory, America's racist. So now let's add that in, and now let's put black people in charge and allow them to do all of the horrible things that white people had done to them. When I hear you're not taking history into account, that's what I hear. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not okay with being discriminated against, because guess what, people? I wasn't here. My ancestors weren't here. And we were discriminated from the moment we got here. We met the heavy hand of policing until today, since we've been here. And even where we came from, we dealt with a lot of shit from a lot of people that looked like you and that looked like a lot of white people too. So I'm not open to my kids being discriminated. I don't want your kids to be discriminated. So I don't really give a fuck about the history. So if that's what you're saying, you're telling me it's your time to be racist. It's your time to be discriminatory. And I should just accept it because of somebody else's ancestors, not mine. Nah, sorry. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Well, that's I believe that's what it's our time really means, or what's the other one that Sanders uses? We taking over, So, but again, this is it's you're diminishing the product, you're removing standards that have been there for a while, and standards that many other minorities have passed and gotten in, and it was fine. But now we need to lower those standards, So again, for those who are okay with this, then when does it stop? Because we keep going, and it's coming to the fire department next, and it's going to come to EMS and all these city services. You're going to get a diminished product, and this is a product that you're paying for with your tax dollars. And if you live in the city, do you really want this diminished product responding to you when you call 911? Do you really want like that overweight midget firefighter who can't carry you out when your house is on fire and you're passed out, So I don't understand why these people push for that, but I suspect that again, not only have they not put in the work themselves in their careers, but I also suspect that they also don't live in these areas where they're happy with this DEI and this diminished product themselves. Because I have a feeling that in the areas where they live themselves, they, if you ask them if they want a diminished fire department responding to their house, they wouldn't give you an answer, or they'd avoid it. When really they don't, But it's the fact that we're seeing a lot of cops themselves okay with this, again, I think is not just because a lot of these people were the benefactors of cronyism disguised as DEI, right? Like in the case of let me give you an example, right? I had friends of mine tell me that when Faison got into aviation, that he was giving his people a lot of the, overtime. He was putting his people in charge of like replacing the guys who are dead basically with his people. And I heard about this months before we actually went public with it. And I told Faison that even though I heard it, I figured, you know what, maybe he's just getting in there, and our CEOs like to put their own people in there. But it turns out that was true, right? And the thing is, these guys who believe in DEI, these chiefs, they'll use DEI as the cover for putting in their cronies into positions. And when when asked about it, it's to them it's diversifying the unit. When there are other people that aren't part of their cronyism crew that would be deserving of that if we go along their argument, But I think the fact that a lot of cops are doing this now is not just because of that, but it's because we've had decades of of um, decades of indoctrination in a lot of communities, especially the Black community in America. Decades of indoctrination in this. This is why you see so much of them vote for Democrats, and I can tell you firsthand, it's very difficult to convince them otherwise, because I personally have given up in my family telling people, having these arguments with people, because I know it's a losing battle, you know? So I'll just be quiet, and if they bring it up, then I'll argue my points. But it's hard because there's so much ingrained indoctrination in these communities.
Well, frankly, I find that the DEI itself, and where some people talk about reparations, and some people saying pretty much that it's okay to have discrimination now because of what happened in history. And I think that good, hardworking Black people should be very uncomfortable with that rhetoric. I think I think that rhetoric is actually selfish, because I think it's actually exploiting. I think for Black people, I think you're actually, if you believe that this discrimination that is going on right now to get to a point to diversify, utilizing DEI, I think it's selfish, and I think you're exploiting your ancestors. Why? Because the ideology should be to analyze history so that we don't make the mistakes again. That's the whole point of analyzing history, is to learn from history, is to not repeat the same mistakes. But what we're doing right now, based on some of the rhetoric, is we're analyzing history and we're saying, well, since there was wrongdoings, now it's okay to discriminate against other groups because of what happened before. And to me, that's exploiting your ancestors, because this didn't happen to you. Anyone that's Black right now, it didn't happen to you. And my ancestors, John's ancestors from America, did not exploit your family either. So I think this argument falls on its face. But I do believe that I do think that it's selfish, and I do think that it's exploiting their ancestors. I think it's completely wrong. I think DEI is just dangerous, and I think it's rather insulting. I mean, I would not want to be, I'm always proud to be a United States Marine, but if they had lowered the standards, I wouldn't be so proud. The fact that the standards were so difficult and you had to be pressure tested and meet such severe qualifications is what makes you proud to have a label, right? So if you're a highway cop, if the standards are lowered, where is the pride in that label to say you're a highway patrolman if the standards are diminished in comparison to what you had before? The whole ideology should be to go through something that is extremely challenging and difficult, where most people would be weeded out and fail. And those people that do make it, one, we know they're extremely qualified, and two, there's a sense of pride. And that pride also makes them do a better job. It's part of self-motivation. So I just think this rhetoric is dangerous. It's insulting, and it should make people rather uncomfortable. I mean, we're exploiting our ancestors. Again, I was a history major in college. You should analyze history in order to not make the same mistakes. In order to not repeat failed history, right? If something was done well and has a positive outcome, yes, then you analyze it, and how could you do it over again in a modern era? But to repeat history and do it all over again and just have complete discrimination, that's why I say this cycle could continue. We could get to a point where it's so top-heavy Black and brown because of DEI. Let's say in 5 or 10 years from now, we say we have to diversify. We need more Asians. And we start to use DEI to get more Asians in that are not qualified. And so we have to discriminate against Black and brown. So it's just this cycle of wrongdoing over and over. I think it's absolutely terrible. I think we should all be uncomfortable with it. And this idea, like, for instance, when we show the video initially here with retired Chief Faison, his information is based completely on emotion and speculation. There's no data in that argument of the Columbia University analysis or study. And it should be data versus data, not data versus speculation or emotion. It just doesn't fit in the equation.
It's just pure. It's just pure racism. Like, and Juju, don't ever bring up my father's name again, or I'll come up to John Jay and smack you right in your face. So I don't know. I don't talk about anybody's family. I don't talk about anybody's wife. I don't talk about anybody's kids. If I talk about somebody, I present it in the argument about them. I don't bring up people's families at all. My father served 2 tours in Vietnam, was disabled because of Vietnam, and did not get benefits for over 20 years after Vietnam. So don't tell me that he had a leg up on anybody. You know nothing about me or my family. Don't bring them up. All right. Thanks. Anyway, secondly, this whole thing about, all right, well, we're just going to dumb down the standards and put people in there, and that's going to make us better. It actually doesn't. It makes us more incompetent. That's what it does. You lower standards. It's not that you like, basically the argument here for highway school is women can't become highway cops and black and brown men can't become highway cops. Good friend of mine, unfortunately, you know, this is the date of his passing, out of highway. And he was a Puerto Rican kid. And he drove a motorcycle. He always drove a motorcycle. He drove a motorcycle. He was into it. And he had no problem passing wheel school. He was a better motorcycle rider than I was. You know, I know a lot of my friends that are black drive Harleys, and they drive them a lot better than I do. They're more competent at it than I am. I know women that ride motorcycles much better than I do. They're much more proficient in it. They're much more comfortable on it, and they'll take rides that I won't take. So to me, I'm like, who's the real racist here? When you're trying to say that I need to give a black man or a Puerto Rican man or a brown man, whatever brown is today, I need to give them a leg up because they can't pass the school. I need to give this woman a leg up because they can't pass the school. That's bullshit. That is complete bullshit. That is discrimination. That's discrimination. When you're saying that, what the argument is, we need to make it down so that black and brown people could do things that white people could do. You don't think that's racist? You don't think it's racist to say that a black man can't drive a motorcycle? You don't think it's racist to say that a black female can't drive a motorcycle proficiently enough to become a highway cop? You don't think that comment's racist? I do. How would Faison feel if I said that about pilots? I have to make the standard to become a pilot lower because, you know, black guys can't fly planes. Racist or not racist? Should we dumb down the license for pilots to get more women and more people of color? What do you think? I think that you're going to say absolutely not. So why should we do it anywhere else in any other shape, form, or fashion? Why should we do it?
I believe that's called DEI, John.
That's what it is, man. It's a dumbing down of society, and it's honestly like people have bought into it hook, line, and sinker, and yet they can't argue it, and they come up with these ridiculous, nonsensical arguments, and it really gets under my skin. It gets under my skin bad, and then what we see after that is we see the sergeant's test, and we see just how incompetent this whole diversity, equity, inclusion push even is, right? So let's talk about sergeant's exam 2538, I believe. Is that what it is? Sergeant's exam 2538, right? So what happens here for this sergeant's exam is, excuse me, let me pull it up. Oh, why is it not pulling up? So what happens here is I've come into contact with a piece of paper from DCAS. I've done a FOIL to get even more data. But in that piece of paper from DCAS, it says that the sergeant's exam 2538 was scaled to mitigate the identified adverse impact against protected demographic groups. I'm going to say it again. The test scoring was scaled to mitigate identified adverse impact against protected demographic groups. So I'm going to put it in English for you, right? Now, I foiled to find out who exactly is in that protected demographic group, but I think I could safely say here that it's women and people of color. I'm think I'm safe to say that. I don't think anyone disagrees with me. Does anyone disagree with me on that? Let me know. So it's saying that in order to protect the adverse impact against the protected demographic group. So the adverse impact, what is that? Traditionally, since I've been on the job and in coming into now, you needed to score a 70% on a multiple choice written exam to become a supervisor, to become a sergeant, to become a lieutenant, and to become a captain, right? The civil service exam is the great equalizer. It alleviates nepotism. It alleviates everything. What it does is it shows who put the work in, who studied, who knows the material, and you can be a sergeant. That is called equal opportunity. So the adverse impact is what they're saying that could happen against Black people and women and people of color. Is they're saying your adverse impact is you're not able to score a 70 on a written exam, multiple choice, 100-question exam. To me, again, completely racist statement, because I know thousands of Black and brown people and women who have passed the sergeant's exam, the lieutenant's exam, and the captain's exam with no problem, actually on test day. Unlike a lot of Eric Adams' friends and possibly even him, right? They didn't get the answers and take the test, days later, same exact test. No. On test day, the day of the test, studied, passed the exam. And what I'm hearing here is, well, we need to scale the exam because, women and Black and brown people can't pass the exam. That's what I'm hearing. I mean, the statement right there screams racist, screams illegal, screams everything. So what they do to mitigate the identified adverse impact is they scale the test. So they say everyone that got between 61 and 100, we're going to scale you evenly. So it doesn't matter if you're Black and brown, doesn't matter if you're a woman, doesn't matter if you're part of that protected class. Now, everyone who got a 61 will have a 70, and so on and so forth, right? You'll move up. If you had a 62, you'll have a 71. If you had a 63, you'll have whatever. So now think about this. Black and brown person or female passes the exam with a 70. 5 years, right? They got 5 years on the job. They don't have a lot of points. They don't have seniority points. They don't have a lot of medals. They don't have any military time. They don't accrue any other points, right? Now, traditionally, if a person scored a 69, their points don't count. In order for your points to count, in order for you to be eligible, you have to score a 70. So if you had a 69, you're out. It doesn't matter. All your points, if you would have got a 70, you'd beat that person that passed on test day, but you didn't get a 70, so you're out. So what they did now is they said, all right, you're 61, now you're passing, 62 is passing, 63 is passing, 64 is passing. And so what happens to Black and brown people and women who scored a 70 and don't have a lot of points? And what happens is when you let people pass now at a 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, all of their points now count, right? So now they get all these other points, and what happens? It adversely impacts the Black and brown people and the women who actually passed on test day, because you actually passed them over, and you're going to get promoted before them, and possibly they might not even get promoted now because of this DEI policy that was put into place on this test. So it's so incompetent, it actually discriminated and harmed the people that it's supposedly believes that it's protecting. I mean, it's the dumbest thing ever. Like, I don't like. What do you think about this sergeant's exam? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, what's the long-term consequences of this? It seems to be that there's no thinking about the long-term, effects of this. Now, granted, I think that there's a lot of structural problems with the NYPD, and I think now I don't know if there's been a lot of changes to it because, I haven't been there in 4 years now, but the patrol guide used to be 2 phone book size, and there used to be like a lot of crap in that patrol guide that's like I don't think is necessary anymore, you know? I mean, wasn't there questions about like the what's the call box on a block, you know? And we don't have those anymore, you know? So I think there was a lot of junk in there that needed to be removed, but that junk was still brought up on the test as test questions. So I think there's a lot of structural problems with the NYPD, you know, and you know, we've talked plenty about them before. But what I'm getting at is that nobody's thinking about the long-term consequences of this. If we keep dumbing down the standards for passing these tests, then that, you know, that sergeant's eventually gonna make his way up the top of the chains, and we're gonna you're just gonna again you're dumbing down the brain trust of the department if you're gonna be dumbing down the ranks that are moving up the chain. And you know, nobody's thinking about what's gonna happen 10, 20 years from now when the all the people at the top are you know, really not the best people who should be there, you know? So, but I also have one more thing about that. Like I think that it's funny how much this plays into the overall agenda. Because if you have a diminished brain trust at the top, I kind of see again more reliance on computers and AI. And I just find it very interesting how much that plays into it.
So I think let's slow the conversation down and let's talk about it in data. And the reason why I say slow the conversation down, what I've noticed, and it's happened to me a lot off the air, is having conversations with people about DEI, and people are very emotionally driven by it. And we have to take the emotion out of this and just look at this with the data. And so when we talk about the actual sergeant's test, the language is there right in front of your face, right? John read the language to you. It's there. And the language is exactly that. In simplest terms, we talk about adverse impact. In simplest terms, the test is modified to ensure people that normally would not pass. I think that's and we just slow it down in most simplest terms. People that did not put the time and effort to pass this test would now pass. Now, I don't see how an exam could discriminate against anyone if you put the time and effort. You know, there's a lot of issues when it comes to promotions that I don't agree with the NYPD, but I do stand behind the civil service process test. Do I believe that the test itself is a metric of measure for leadership? Absolutely not. But it is equitable, and I think it's a level playing field. If we just go by score and we say, rhetorically speaking, if we took John and myself and said, hey, we have a test coming up in 6 months, we both have the same opportunity, the same book, the same information, and to put as much motivation and dedication as we choose and compete for a score on that test. That book doesn't know our color. That book doesn't know our race, creed, sexual orientation. That book doesn't know. The book the book doesn't have a mind, right? You open and close that book, and you put your motivation and dedication into it. Some people say it's not a metric of leadership, and I agree. But what it is, it shows that you can be committed to something, take the time out to learn something, and prepare yourself for a test. So it shows preparation, it shows commitment, dedication. So these are potential, and these are precursors for eventual leadership training. Do I think the police department lacks in providing leadership training? Yes. But just actually passing the test, I think it's a good metric of measure. I think it's a pretty level playing field and cuts out the problem with the NYPD, which is tier 1 and tier 2, nepotism and cronyism. And I think it's insulting to the people that are black and brown or female or whatever group is supposedly being opposed by this test, because if you're black and you put the hard work into it and you do pass the test, you have to ask yourself, why are you putting such effort where someone else does not put the same effort? And as John said, if they get themselves in a position to pass, and then their seniority and other amenities that they may have kick in, they can force or pass someone that really put the effort into that test. So I think this also kills morale. It kills camaraderie, And it really kills the ability to find the people that put the hard work and effort into this. Because that's really what the metric of measure is. Is it a measure of intelligence? In some ways, yes. Is it a measure of memorization? Yes. And I think memorization falls into a portion of intelligence, and also dedication and motivation. Shows that people put that motivation and dedication. So I think the test itself is not completely based on intelligence, but it's really about people that are motivated, committed to something. And I think that's what's important in getting promoted, right? Showing that you're committed to it. And I think this is just an epic fail, especially to the people that put the work into it. If you're a female, if you're black, and you put the work into it, how do we identify who put the work in or didn't if it's modified and scaled to allow people to pass that did not put the work? And eventually, once those amenities surpass someone else, well, then we can't identify who's actually deserving, who put the work in, because those numbers, right? Because we promote people based on a listed number. Right? If you're number one on that test, we can assume you went balls to the wall and you put every effort into that test in comparison to someone that is number 1,000. But now, because of this impact and modifications to the test, we can't make those identifications, and we can't determine who put that effort in and to get the most qualified to get promoted first, right? In a sequence of events. If the first class getting promoted is 50, it should be the top 50 of that test. But we're not getting the top 50 because we can't identify it because of these modifications.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, just think of it. You're a black female. You got a 70 on test day, and you passed the exam. You put the work in. You studied, and now somebody that didn't pass the test on test day passes you by. And now it could be a person that's not in the protected demographics, right? It could be a white male. I actually took a sergeant's test without studying, and I got a 62 on it. And I was like, holy crap, what an idiot I am. If I would have actually studied, I would have been a sergeant. And then the next test I studied. So think about that. Like let's say that was me. You're a black female. You passed the test. You put the work in. You got a 70. I didn't study. I get a 62. And now, bam, I got a bunch of medals. I got seniority on the job, and I pass you over, and you never get promoted. But you should feel better in knowing that, DCAS put that together and they scaled it to identify the adverse impact against your protected demographic group. So because of that, you got passed over and you actually never got promoted. But I, who didn't study, gets promoted. I mean, how is that fair? Where is that in civil service law? Where is that in equal opportunity law? Where is any of this garbage? So I put together a very lengthy FOIA request in regards to all of this, because I want to know who authorized this, who came up with this scaling method, how was a 61 determined, who in fact are these protected groups. I don't think I'll ever get that data, but I'm going to push on it. It's going to take me months, I'm sure. I'm going to keep pushing, and there's a lot of other things that need to be transparent, and this is one of them. I think when you're looking at it now, and it's that same notion, it's the same notion of where, like, when you look at someone now who handles something incompetently, you're going to think, should that person have been a sergeant? Should that person have been a lieutenant? Or did they just get pushed ahead because we dumbed down the system? And I've been saying it from day one. I mean, you could go back to everything I said. It's like, yeah, DEI is supposedly put out there to push black, brown people and women ahead, right? It's supposedly to do that. But what it does is it lowers standards for everybody. So you don't just get unqualified black and brown people. You don't just get unqualified women. You get unqualified white males too. You get people who didn't earn it either. And that's my whole argument against DEI, is it's not a great thing. And for any of those that do want to debate, this is my question for you. Not that anyone has reached out. I mean, I've got a lot of nasty messages, a lot of nasty emails, a lot of nasty comments on all my social media. Here's my question for you. Can you please name one organization or one agency that DEI has improved, and please show me the metrics that have improved as a result of it? And that's just my only question. And so, taking an attack on DEI as an attack on women or attack on black and brown people is completely wrong. This is an attack on trying to dumb down. This is an attack to try to keep competence and try to keep standards and quality and try to keep equal opportunity in this country, not just in the NYPD. People, you know, I've been getting a ton of messages. Oh, you should just stop, John. You should just go enjoy retirement. It's like, I'm having a lot of fun actually in retirement. I'm actually really enjoying my life. If what we're saying upsets you, if what I'm saying upsets you, it's very simple. Change the channel. But if you want to think, if you want to debate, if you want to take an opposite stance, that's absolutely fine. I respect your opinion. We respect your opinions. But give us an opposite stance. Don't come with these bullshit arguments, man. Oh, you guys were never executives. Oh, you passed one more multiple choice exam than we did? Come on, dude. Oh, well, if I would have got vaccinated, I would have passed the captain's exam. Eric actually passed the captain's exam, and they wouldn't let him take it. They wouldn't let him become a captain. So
yeah, I wasn't tier 2 like John Shell.
That's a straw man. Exactly. Exactly, dude. And there was a guy that actually winds up surpassing you, and he gets promoted. He had a worse CCRB record than you, and they promoted him after you, because of the advocacy of the Finest Unfiltered. And I don't know the color of that male, but I don't know what if he's in a protected demographic group or not. But I mean, anyone that comes past you that's going to get promoted is a result of you. So to sit there and make this argument, well, you guys weren't captains, so I'm going to explain it for you what I think, without any data or anything to prove what I'm saying or anything to disprove the data that you put up. So it was absolutely ridiculous, and it's been happening this whole week. And you know, I'm not slowing down. No one on this podcast is slowing down. We're gonna continue to point all this bullshit out. What happened on Sergeant's Exam 2538 is absolutely wrong, and there's a lot of people who shouldn't have got promoted. If you needed X amount of people, you shouldn't be picking them based upon their gender or their color. If you need 1,000 sergeants, you need 1,000 sergeants. You take the top 1,000 people, and that's it. Throw out the score. Don't give a passing score. If it is what it is. The top 1,000 people get in. That's it. You know, like this is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Microphone.
Yeah, and
Well, you were due for one, brother. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I would say to that
DEI microphone.
To the if like the job feels that the scores aren't high enough, then the job should look at the structural problems that prevent people from scoring higher in these tests. And again, I go back to like these tours that they're doing and like having very few days off. Okay. And those are structural problems with the job. You should address that rather than diminish the product we get from the test. Now, to what you said, Jana, if Chief Faison feels that we need to be executives in order to fully talk about this, then you know, how do you feel about the vax mandate? You know, I mean, because if John was still on the job, John would be on his way to becoming one of those executives too, you know. But if I was on a job, I would most definitely have taken that sergeant's test. Okay. So at the same time, that you can't use that as an argument while being completely silent about what happened back then. Okay. You can't, because, you know, the whole point that we're arguing here is that all these, the whole point that we argue on the show is that all these issues, you know, all these issues that come from the job, they really hurt the job. Okay. And our point is that if you fix these problems, including what happened back then you stop ruining lives and you give people the opportunity to become, you know, you give an opportunity for the job to have better people at the top. Okay. So what I'm simply saying is that if your point is that we need to be executives, on the job to be able to comment about this, then you should be our biggest advocate to pushing for them to bring us back on the job, okay? To give us that opportunity, okay? But you know what? One thing I also struggle with about this whole thing is that when I wonder whether DEI is like a response to whether it's like some sort of a jaded response to the job no longer being able to get the most qualified people, you know, or whether which came first, whether it's the job's jaded response to not being able to recruit qualified people, or whether it's whether the point is to change the job first, you know, whether the job, whether they want to change the job, the face of the job first, or whether changing the job, the face of the job, is a reaction to the fact that they have such deep structural problems that they don't want to address, and now they feel the only way to get the people in the doors and fill the academy seats is to lower standards. And I think about that a lot, and the reason why I think about it is because I look at America and where America is going, and whether and I look at all the problems in America overall, and I wonder just how much of a reach into society this DEI and austerity and lowered standards is going to reach, and ultimately is going to destroy our country, you know. So,
well, if this measure actually stands and holds, excuse me, and holds any water, then I invite retired Chief Faison to come on this podcast and debate me. I passed the test. I passed that multiple choice test for captain. So does that mean that we can have the conversation? Because I want to know from retired Chief Faison, I want to know, based on your argument, where did you get the data that 40 to 50% of white captains go to investigative units over blacks? I want to know why you believe that it's a harder job to be in a patrol services bureau versus an investigative unit. Why it's harder. I say it's different and more of a leadership role, but why is it harder? And where is all the data that you got to say that the numbers on the Columbia study are skewed? If you're saying the numbers skewed, tell us how, because what you heard from retired Chief Faison is what goes on at Comstat. That's how they manipulate statistics, by giving you stories and by giving you mythology based on emotion, investment, and in plugging in bullshit information and hoping that everyone just glazes over it. And so apparently, John, and I'm glad you're enjoying your life, and so am I, but apparently when you discuss issues that everyone's talking about in the locker room, you're not having a good life. And so what they're saying is they're reflecting their own misery. They're not having a good life. Excuse me, our life is great because we have our First Amendment right, and we could actually speak about these atrocities. And when people are telling you that, oh, go enjoy your life, I believe that they're actually reflecting their own misery. They're not enjoying their own life because they're living in that prison called the NYPD, and yet they're afraid to talk about that same prison because they all suffer from the Stockholm Syndrome, right? They all want to protect their captors. That's what you're doing. When you talk about in the locker room and you're afraid to actually talk about it out loud, we get it. You can't talk about it on a podcast or a platform. You have to protect your rights, but we are the voice for you. And this is an opportunity for you to speak through us, right? It's almost like telepathic. And yet you don't want that opportunity it's always this idea, like cops want to complain, people complain, but you can't say it out loud. Why is that? It's okay to say it under your breath, but God forbid you say it out loud. It's, oh, can't talk about it, Chief. No, exactly what we're doing. We need to talk about it to correct it. So again, retired Chief Faison, you seem like a gentleman. I invite you on here. I passed the test, multiple choice. Let's play Minority Report. I would envision that John would have passed it too. Clearly, Marlon would pass it also. So I think we could all have a great conversation. Please bring the data. I'm giving you an opportunity to do the research now. Bring the data on how 40 to 50% of white captains are in investigative units and their black counterparts are in positions to get promoted. So please bring that data, and I want to see the data on why the Columbia University study is skewed. Also, one more thing. Think about this. Jessica Tisch has said numerous times at graduations of the NYPD Police Academy that promotions are based on merit. If we modify scores and impact those that are a disproportionate demographic that are not getting promoted by this language on this DCAS 2538 SARS exam, is that merit-based? That is not merit-based. That is based on DEI. That's it.
Wait, but you know what's funny though, Eric? What you said, he's not. If his argument is that all these cops are coming, all these white cops are getting into these units, you know, he's not talking about the like cronyism. You know, the same. My point on the vax is that he's not calling out cronyism. Okay, he's not saying. All he's saying is that we want our share too. You know.
Yes. Well said, brother. I agree with you.
Yeah, but that's my thing. People defending DEI as like, hey, look, my people were historically discriminated against and segregated, and we were set back as a result of it. It's like you're not calling for equal opportunity. Like you're in support of discriminating in the opposite form. Like that's my argument. That's like what I've been trying to like get out here. It's like it's like and again, like I have no problem with people. Like I have no problem if you're a black male and you're standing up for other black males or black females. It doesn't bother me at all. I expect you to do that. That's what you should be doing. Same for Hispanic people, same for Jews, same for Muslims. I have no problem with that at all. But understand that like just because we live in a society where people who have been labeled as white have been completely neutered in this country and are afraid to openly discuss things in public or say these things publicly, understand there's a lot of angry white men that are on phone calls every day and text message threads every day, and they're talking about all the shit that we're talking about. Society has just told them that they can't do it because they're racist if they do it. Right? It's the same for Christians too. Like they can't openly say what's wrong or defend their faith or defend themselves. Like I'm just doing what I expect you to do. Right? I expect you to defend when you're seeing your people being discriminated against. I expect you to stand up and say something for it. I applaud you for doing it. I'm going to do it too. And I'm sitting here and saying we should all be doing it. And I'll be honest, a lot of people that want to silence us, they're white. You know, like they're not. It's not the guys that we argue with. It's the white people saying, "Oh, stop. I just want to be hidden in my little group text thread. I want to be hidden on the phone call I have with my friends every day when I have my coffee and I complain about all this shit. I just don't want to hear you saying it because it makes me realize how neutered I actually am. That I go to work every day and I actually, not only do I get discriminated and not say a word about it, I read these policies and I push these discriminatory, racist, gender discrimination against my own people. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're sitting here and we're saying, oh, we're all one. We should never discriminate. Martin Luther King Day. Let's judge people based on the content of their character. No. You know, we can't really do that, though, because of DEI. We don't want to judge people based on the content of their character. We don't want to judge people based upon their qualifications. We don't want to judge people based upon their competence level. What we really need to do is institute all of these diversity, equity, inclusion policies, and we need to push people ahead because of the color of their skin or their gender. And at the same time, hey, look, yeah, are we going to have to discriminate? Yeah, we're going to have to discriminate. But you know what? Your ancestors did it, so it's okay. You know, I mean, like, it's what it is, man. It's what it is, and I don't. I'm like, I don't. Again, I'm not mad at nobody. I'm not emotionally invested in any of this. Just to the point that it annoys me. Just to the point that the argument, like, they annoy me, and it falls on its face always. Like, you know, like a lot of these policies, you could just ask one question and it fails. And that's why I consistently say, like, people don't want to debate this topic. They'll throw shots at it. They'll call you a racist from far, but they do not want to debate. Winston actually put out another video. I think we should play that next in the next round.
Yeah. So before we get to that, the reason why I brought up about that structural stuff last time is because what we're saying is literally a third world country. When you have so much structural problems, and the only way to get around it, people believe the only way to get around it is tribalism, who they know, and cronyism, right? And they think that racism from their side is the way to fight past racism against them. You're literally headed for a third world society. And the reason why I think about that personally is because I still live in New York City. And what's going to happen, as you're seeing, I brought up that issue with an NYPD recruitment, is because if you can't get the qualified people here, right? If the qualified people who are smart enough to understand where things are headed, they say, oh shit, we're going to be like a third world country. I'm out of here. I'm going to Florida. I'm going to Texas. I'm going to Tennessee, right? Then who are you going to be left with in New York City? Okay. If you're left with low quality people in New York City, then you're going to get a diminished services for everything. And do you really want to be the guy here calling 911 when you're getting a diminished a product? You'll get that DEI firefighter who can't drag you out when your house is burning. Do you really want to be here when that happens? So this is my only reason for bringing that up, and why this is a much bigger deal than people make it out to be,
Yeah, that's why I say DEI is dangerous. It's dangerous internally to the NYPD because it eradicates and affects the product that you're getting, right? Which is, it hurts the morale and camaraderie. I mean, think about it. If you're a young police officer and you put 6 months of dedication, you work hard on a test, you bust your ass. Black or white, doesn't matter who you are. Gay or straight, doesn't matter. But you bust your ass, you work hard, and comes test day, and those answers just flying off the scoreboard. I mean, flying off the test. You do well. Now, someone else who puts, little to no effort and passes that same test and then gets elevated with all these amenities and gets the same score as you, or maybe close to you, even if you do a little better. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel about the promotion process? How does that make you feel about the hard work and dedication that you put into in comparison to someone else? I would sense that you would feel discriminated against also. Like, wow, I put all this effort in and I got the same acknowledgement as someone that didn't put any effort. And I don't care what color they are, because the book doesn't know. The book doesn't know what color you are. The book doesn't know who you slept with the night before. The page is open by your hand. And I just think it's dangerous. It's also dangerous externally. It's dangerous to the public because we're now providing a lesser quality product. We're putting out leadership that did not have the commitment to put the work into the test. I mean, look, John told you, right? First test, he got a 62. He said, wow, if I would have put the effort and time, I would have passed, right? He didn't say it was a matter of intelligence. He put the effort. So we're getting people that did not put the effort in for a specific test to be qualified at this point to get to that next point. Maybe they weren't ready in their lives. It wasn't the time, right? And maybe for John, what he's saying wasn't the time for him, right? I believe when like every time a test came around, the time worked out for me. It was the time of my life. Like I wanted to pass the test, and I put that effort into it. I don't think it's necessarily a measure of intelligence, but it is a measure of effort. And a lot of it's timing in your life. Is it the right time? Some people are just bogged down with new kids, young babies. They just don't have the time. So you have to put the time and effort. And this all correlates to the product that's out in the street. With good leadership, people that want to be in that position. But if we're just modifying it to give away promotion so that they look like the community or they smell like the community, or they're also we have people that have different sexual orientation. Like, who cares? Who cares? Who cares who you screwed the night before? What color they were? What color you are? Who cares what you look like? We should all care is, did you put the work in? Are you qualified at this point? Are you ready to be in a leadership position? Are you ready to get into a position where you can learn about leadership? Because leadership is a skill. And this affects internally in the police department. It affects internally. I just don't see where the argument is. I think DEI is an infection. I think it affects it affects people that are discriminated against, and I also think it discriminates against the people supposedly trying to help, because the people in a protected, so-called protected group, if you're gay, rhetorically speaking, and you bust your ass and you work so hard on an exam, does it matter that someone else who's gay gets promoted who didn't work as hard? Who gives a shit? Did they screw someone different than you? It doesn't matter, it's absolutely just ridiculous. Are we good? I want to know the data. John, I think it's great point you brought up with the FOIL request. Like, I want to know, like what do they determine? Like, we have to have 50 black people pass the test, 50 Hispanic women, 50 people have to be gay. Like, what is the determination? When do we get? So here's ultimately my question, and was this in your FOIL? When do we get to a point that it's diversified enough? How do we know, like, okay, we made it, we could stop here? Is that part of your FOIL?
No, because that's a question for the powers that be, because this is the part of the whole agenda. Like, but it will say when it'll say why they arrived at that score. Like, what was it? But Eric, what you're doing is questioning the science, and you're not allowed to do that. So you have to follow the diversity science. Like, and if you don't do it, there's you're a danger to this country. And I just want to let you know that, Hoop City 76 says, under DEI, no unqualified person gets a handout. So we just told you that because of DEI, people passed the sergeant's exam that they shouldn't have. They got points. Under DEI, people are getting guaranteed interviews for highway. People are getting tutoring to pass a test for highway based upon the color of their skin or the gender. So, I mean, the arguments that we're making here completely debunk everything that you're saying. It's all white supremacist talking points to shut down the conversation white people don't want to have. We're actually having the conversation, Hoop City. It's, the defenders of DEI are the ones not having the conversation. You're welcome on this platform to come on here to have civilly discuss this matter. And, people are like, we're on here trying to explain how we're victims and discriminatory. So understand this. All three of us are no longer in the NYPD. We haven't told you one personal story about any discrimination that we faced. We're talking about a system and debating points on the system and pointing out the hypocrisies of a system and showing you the data of the system. We're really not personally invested in this point. In this matter whatsoever. I mean, I think the people that are personally invested are the ones accusing us of dog whistling, being white supremacists. I mean, a Jew, an Italian, and a black guy are white supremacists now. This is how dumb we've gotten in society. This is a white supremacist podcast. Like, this is how dumb we've got. Like, to me, DEI is a divisive policy meant to bring us down, because dumb people, incompetent people are easily led around and are easily led astray. And we're seeing that in this country. So let's hear Faison put a follow-up to it. I had asked him, like, why didn't you mention anything about Asians, like that being there, or the Hispanic women? This wasn't just a white-black argument. This was an overall argument. This is the data. Let's hear what he has to say now. I didn't listen to this, by the way, so I don't know what he says, but someone said that he mentions us in here. So let's hear what he's got to say.
What's up, everybody? What's up? First and foremost, I want to make a correction. So my last video, I said the Finest Unfiltered utilized Columbia University study, and it was not a Columbia University study. It was 4 guys with the PMI training, and they did some research. So
wait. I'm gonna bring up, when we're done with this video, I'm gonna bring up the study that has the tag for PMI as well as Columbia Association, as the Columbia University. This came out of the Columbia Business School. So I know you're getting coached here. I've been noticing a lot of people have podcasts and they get coached by other people, and they got to talk based upon what's happening in the chat or what they're getting on their phone. But, like, this was a Columbia study. We're going to show that. So, I mean, all you needed to do was look at the study that I posted. So I don't know what this argument is.
I want to thank RPGs for straightening that out. It was not Columbia University. However, they made statements and they feel like white men in particular are being attacked and they are losing their.
I'm sorry. Did you guys ever say that? Because I never said that white men are being attacked. I'm saying that it's DEI is discriminatory. I don't remember you ever saying that, Eric. I don't remember Marlon ever saying that.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, he's. I tell you what. The coaching they're getting from the sidelines is way off. Like they got to figure out the cues. Like in baseball, what the numbers are. They don't know what the numbers are. They're off. They calling out the plays right now, and he's not following the plays. Coach must be pissed. You're not following the plays, brother.
Position on the job and is being taken by black men, right? Or blacks. So it's very important that the New York City Police Department should look like and represent what's going on in New York City, right? So there's 8.3 million people living in New York City, and 24.3% of that are blacks, and 32.1% of that are whites. There are 34,374 uniformed members of the service currently right now. Blacks represent 17.1%, and whites represent 36.9%. So I'm going to dive into just discretionary promotions. And I'm going to go with the detective specialist, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 1st grade, and then we'll go to deputy inspectors, and deputy chiefs. And we're going to compare the numbers. So let's go with detective specialists first. We got 1,062 total detective specialists right now. Out of that 1,062.
First off, how did they get these numbers right off the bat, and we got to wait months for these numbers? That's what I want to know. So, Jessica Tisch, the people that have been trying to take you down in your own office are pulling numbers and giving data, but yet when our kids were threatened, you weaponized, not you, but your predecessor, weaponized IAB to investigate us. Weaponized all of the other agencies, including your federal partners, against this fucking podcast. And these motherfuckers right under your nose are just consistently getting data right from your own office, and you're not doing anything about it. I mean, this shit pisses me off, dude. It really does. And it's always like, it's always the data and it's always the points that are getting put out there to prove. If you look at what happened, like this podcast, we don't discriminate here. We criticize whether you're a black executive, whether you're a white executive, whether you're a black police commissioner, a white police commissioner, a Jewish female police commissioner. Really doesn't fucking matter to us. We're just talking the bullshit that we see, right? But there is a clear narrative that the only people in the NYPD that are corrupt, the only people in the NYPD that are bad, the only people in the NYPD that are a problem are Jessica Tisch, Joe Kenny, who else? Chief Richie, whatever Richie Taylor.
Token pale faces.
I'm sorry. Like, there's a lot of bullshit going on in the NYPD, and there was a lot of bullshit coming out of black executives and brown executives too. A lot of bullshit. So we don't hold punches here. We've criticized every single one of those people, but we criticize other people too.
You know what,
so
John?
I'm just a little annoyed that they just get access to everything. No problem. If we did that, there would be a year-long investigation into how we got that. Our phones would continue to get data pulled from it. Like, it is fucking bullshit. They should have to do FOIA requests just like us, or we should get a pipeline where we're getting body cameras and we're getting the data that we request ASAP.
Yeah, 3 people that we don't even know apparently were being investigated for giving information to us, so we don't even know who they are, but they get all this data. So I'd like to also say we should have John Schell on here because John Schell also made it to the rank of chief of department, and he agrees that whites are being discriminated against also. So when we have that opportunity, John Schell should have that argument here with retired Chief Faison. This is absolutely ridiculous, spewing this bullshit. And where did he get those numbers about manpower? Great recruitment video, 34,000. That's a complete lie. There are not 34,000 cops in the police department right now. Those numbers are completely skewed. Want to talk about numbers being skewed? Those numbers are skewed.
Well, so I want to see this data though, because I'm sorry, I just don't trust numbers. But let's hear what he's got to say. So he's giving staff in levels. He's talking about detective specialists right now. Let's hear what he's got to say.
213 or 20.1% are blacks. Now, it should represent the city, which is 24.3%. So we're down about 4.1% with representation.
So what do we do there to correct that, Winston? So 24%, you know, it's got to be even. So you got to get that 4%. How do you get the 4%, Winston? How do you get the 4% without discriminating against people? How do you do it? How do you do it? And does that mean that detective specialist, which is a bullshit rank in my opinion, makes the job better because it's 24% black people and not 21% black people? I mean, like, dumb ass argument. This is the problem with DEI. This is the problem with it.
This is absolutely ridiculous. Do the numbers have to, even if he was right about those numbers, do they have to match exactly? Oh my God, there's 24%. Do you think that we have the, first of all, when we do a population consensus, these are estimated numbers. There are plenty of people that are not counted. There are plenty of people that are not registered voters. So these numbers are skewed also. Eric, you want to get close to it, right? You want to represent your community. We understand that by organically suitability. But if it's 24% documented registered voters in the consensus for population, and you have 20% in the NYPD, that's pretty damn close. That is pretty damn close. This is absolutely plain semantics here. Great job, who's ever coaching him. I have an idea who's coaching him. So great job. Call the plays. Go ahead. Let's call another one.
Yeah. And by the way, I think he's getting all that information from the Guardians. Okay, that's my.
Who works in the police commissioner's office? Oh, the president. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you know, and so like here's the thing. Like here's the crazier thing. Like we're not specifically calling out that the job's discriminatory against white male, which they are. And we're not just calling out specifically that the job's discriminatory against Christians, which they are. But they're specifically saying that the job is racist against black people, that Jessica Tisch is racist against black people. They're making that claim, by the way. So, like, we're not. We're showing the exact opposite of what's actually happening here and how women and black and brown people are being pushed ahead. And we're showing you the data of what's happening. So he's saying that blacks are underrepresented by 2%, so we need to fix that, right? Or whatever the percentage point was in the rank of detective specialist. Let's go on further. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Now you're looking at the white, right? Out of the 1,062 detective specialists, 468 of those are white for 44.1%. Or no, so 468 or 44.1%. And that's up 12% from that 32.
So whites are overrepresented by 12% in the rank of detective specialists. So what do we do there, Winston, to get those numbers to match specifically to New York City's data, to New York City's demographics? What do we do there? How do you do that? How do you bring those numbers down without discriminating? I'm going to wait to hear this.
Well, before you go into that, hold on. Let's just stop for a second. I just want to say this. What's important to note that they don't mention here is that suitability and organically, that these numbers actually make sense. Here's why. So he's going to tell you, I'm sure we're going to get to a point of how we discriminate against others to get to that point. But here's why. The city is comprised of 5 different boroughs where police officers work. But the city is comprised of many counties where people live. And so if you're a New York City police officer, if you're watching this show and you're outside New York City, if you're active retired, you understand how this works, or a police enthusiast. But if you're outside New York City, there are 5 boroughs, right? You have Brooklyn, Staten Island, Queens, Manhattan, and the Bronx, where the New York City does their patrol. But you could be a resident of Nassau County, Suffolk County, which the residents in Nassau and Suffolk are more than 50% white. Rockland County, more than 50% white live there. You could be a resident there. Westchester, more than 50%. And then you could also be a resident of Orange County, which is more than 50%. And then Putnam County, you could be a resident and work in New York City. And Putnam County is almost 90% white. So that's why those numbers are at those percentages. Not because blacks are discriminated against, is because we have so many counties where people can reside and be a New York City police officer, and those outside counties are predominantly white. So let's get into how we discriminate against whites.
But what they're saying is none of that matters because, you know, the demographics of New York City and the demographics of the NYPD need to match identically.
Oh, yeah.
There's not like a tolerance point there at all. Like they want the numbers 25% black, they want 25% black. You know, 14% white, they want 14%. Like whatever those are, and so there's no possible way to actually do that without discriminating against people. There's no way to do it. First of all, there's no way to achieve it without discriminating against people. But then once you achieve it, let's say we achieved it. We break every equal opportunity law. We break Title VII, 1964. We throw out New York State human rights law. We throw all that out the garbage, and we positively discriminate against people so that the numbers match specifically. Right? So the numbers, the statistics of the data, the demographics of New York City match the NYPD perfectly. Now, how do you maintain it? You maintain it by continuing to discriminate, continuing to break the law. And that's what they're not understanding. Like,
no, I understand, but what I'm saying is the point that he's trying to make, right? They want to match these numbers exact. But what I'm saying is it makes sense why organically the numbers would be a little bit off is because you have residents that are cops that come from predominantly white counties. So it makes sense. And you're absolutely right. In order to get to the point, to get to these numbers they want, you have to be intentional discriminating. He's looking at the numbers. If they say, okay, we need 24%, we're at 20, that means that if there are 100 police officers that need to make detective and 70 of them are white, and 30 of them are black, you're going to have to find a way that you're going to have to promote less whites and more blacks, so it means you're going to discriminate. But let's hear from Faison. He knows better. He was a captain. He got promoted. We shouldn't be able to talk.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know why the numbers are that way. I know that there is a discriminatory process happening in hiring, in promoting, in transfers, in all of this stuff, and we've been labeling it out with all of it, and you know. The numbers are because that's just what it is. This is what's happening based upon NYPD's current system, which is in fact discriminatory. So let's go on to hear what he's got to say.
So they are representing, not only representing the population, they're 12% increase in that representation. Look at detective third grade. There's 2,941 detective third graders. 385 of those are black, which is 13.1%, which is underrepresented from the city at 4.1. Meanwhile, out of that 2,941, 1,592 are white, or 54.1%, which is an overrepresentation of 22%. Look at detective second grade. We have 736.
So detective third grade, whites overrepresented, blacks underrepresented. How do we fix that without discrimination?
We promoted to first grade. That's what they do. You go to chief manager's office and you get promoted to first grade. That's how they do it.
134 of those, or 18.3%, are black. That's down 6.1% of this how we represent the city. Meanwhile, out of that 736, 311 are white, 43.3%. Now, that's an overrepresentation of 10.2%. Look at detective first grade. It's 307. 65 or 21.2% are black, which is an underrepresentation of 3.1%. Meanwhile, out of that 307, 150 are white, or 48.9%, which is an overrepresentation of 16.8%. Now let's go to the executive rank. I didn't.
Wait, but here's the thing. So overrepresented, specialist, underrepresented, specialist, right? All the way up to first grade, right? Blacks are underrepresented, whites are overrepresented. I get he's saying it. What's the solution? What's the solution? Is there a tolerance level? Who came up with, well, we need to make this perfectly. We need to make these numbers match perfectly. Where is the DEI science? Do we DEI harder? Like, is that what he's saying? We're not DEI-ing hard enough, so just shut up, white boy. Like, is that what I'm hearing? Like, I want to hear this. Like, this is like getting to me. So he's gonna get to the executives now. Is he gonna come to a point? I haven't listened to this video. Do you think he's gonna make a point, or is he just gonna show that we need to DEI harder because, you know, whites are overrepresented and blacks are underrepresented, and we're not matching these statistically perfectly?
Well, first of all, I want to see his. First of all, retired Chief Faison, I want to see your FOIA request. I want to see how you got all this data. And no, you're not going to see a solution. I haven't watched this yet, but I can tell you, based on the information he's given, you're not going to a solution. He's just giving data to show that they're underrepresented. He doesn't tell you why they're underrepresented, and he doesn't tell you how to get to a point to solve that solution, which mirrors the external percentages of demographics in New York City. I'm with Rob Lukash, my brother right here. Please make it stop now. I know why he crashed his helicopter. Absolutely. This argument, I'm with Rob Lukash. I love you, brother. He's absolutely right because he's crashing right now. This doesn't make any sense because what he's saying is, yes, there's a disparity, and you want to fix that disparity, but you're not telling us how we get there. How do we get these percentages to mirror the percentages of demographics in New York City without discrimination? How do we do it? That's what I want to know. Let's see if he tells us.
Okay. I think what we're looking at here is trying to find numbers to support our arguments here. And I think it's because I suspect this is all coming from the Guardians, because this is how the Guardians browbeats the department into putting cronies, into certain positions in the job. Yeah, if there's too many O's on the promotional list, they'll go to the mayor and browbeat him and guilt him into putting making sure the chief is a certain crony over there, or a certain connected chief. It's not, again, these guys like to come with say that it's we need to diversify this and that. Really, the diversity, this DEI really is really a weaponization of their cronyism. Okay. And they're not looking out for all the cops that looking for. If we go by their misguided belief system, right? Their misguided tribalism, they're not consistent with that misguided tribalism. Because if they were, right? If they were, the Guardians would have been talking about me, okay? But they're not even consistent with their own misguided tribalism because it's a cover, okay? Because they don't care. They don't care about if you're black or brown. They don't care. This is about hooking up people connected to them, okay? And using the excuse of diversity
right on,
to get there.
Right on.
Okay?
You're
and this is
right.
why they're not talking about cronyism. He doesn't have a problem with cronyism. They don't have a problem with that. They just want their cronyism too. They want their share of the pie. They want their crumbs too. Okay.
So you heard it here, folks. Marlon's a racist. So he's just pushing white supremacist dog whistles. All right. Don't listen to anything that he just said there. Right?
Apparently Marlon didn't listen to the speech by Tariq Shepard. Was very very valuable. That you're supposed to use nepotism for your careers. That's what smart people do. So you miss his speech. Nepotism is part of the resume process. You got to network. That's not, you don't need skill, just networking. You're absolutely right. Pat Gordon, it's all about access. You can care less. Marlon's black. Where's the big fight? Where's retired Chief Faison saying them? Marlon was one of these detectives that should be first grade. Instead, he's terminated. They don't care. As far as they're concerned, Marlon's just another white guy lumped into Finest Unfiltered.
Well, no, they like Marlon said, they don't really care if you're black or brown or a female. It's just it's about me and mine and my friends and hooking and getting us. That's it. It has nothing to do with it. So, all right, let's get into the numbers. Now we're gonna get into the executive numbers. Let's see it. And by the way, FYI, what really pisses me off about this is like we have to take the word of this data. Right? Like we're giving you the benefit of the doubt that this data is actually accurate. Again, I would love to see what my FOIL request reveals. And so police commissioner, let us know, like, why are we have to wait and they get privy access to all this data right off the bat? Why are we getting investigated and you're investigating your own cops going on witch hunts, trying to find people that are feeding us what? Information from the New York Post that we talk about articles that are out in the paper. We talk about stuff that's publicly available. Like this is ridiculous. So this is absolutely ridiculous. So, but I'll give the benefit of the doubt that these numbers are accurate as of 1/17/26. I'll give these numbers.
Captain, because all the rank up to captain, you can take a test. So we're just doing discretionary. So we're going to start with deputy inspector.
No, wait a minute. Why? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Why are we just doing discretionary? Why are we just doing discretionary? Why wouldn't it matter who took the test to show what the numbers are? You can't become a deputy inspector if you don't become a captain. You could become a deputy commissioner, though, we found out, right? Without ever even being a sergeant, right? So I don't understand. That's just a little convenient. That's a little convenient that when we want to talk about numbers of being conspicuous, numbers are numbers. You put the numbers out there. So those matter. Those numbers matter. So when we're doing an analysis in the future, just so you know, you can't become a deputy inspector without being a captain. You can't become an inspector without being a captain. You can't become any one of the stars of chief without becoming a captain. So that data matters. So, but we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead that you conveniently left that one out.
It's interesting how this CompStat math that is instilled in the upper echelon of the police department and in the executive staff all learns that this CompStat math, it's all about manipulation of stats. It's just like when they do the comparisons and we leave out the COVID era. We don't talk about COVID years. He's doing the same thing here. Let's systematically play semantics and let's cherry pick the data that we're going to make comparison to, because we left out sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, right? In order to get to deputy inspector, you have to take those 3 civil service exams until you get the discretionary promotion, right? Discretionary promotion in the civil service exam process does not happen until after captain. Very convenient how we left that out. Just how you learn a CompStat to leave out the COVID years. Again, they all learn this math. It's called CompStat math. But let's continue. Let's listen to this bullshit.
Yeah, we'll just take those years out. Let's just take those numbers out because those numbers don't
count.
They don't count, because again, the test was racist and the test probably wasn't scaled to mitigate the identified adverse impacts against, protected demographic groups. So you can't really count those numbers.
Let's hear about the lazy captains that only go to investigative units. Let me hear about that. Apparently the white guys are lazy and the black guys, they want to work hard. That's what I heard.
Deputy inspectors, there's 164 total. Only 27 are black, or 16.5%. An underrepresentation of 7.8%. Meanwhile, you look at whites, out of the 164, 86 is white, or 52.4%, which is an overrepresentation of 20.4%. Let's go to inspector. There's only 110. 15 are black, or only 13.6%. Underrepresentation of 10.7%. Meanwhile, out of that 110, 70 are white, or 63.6%. which is an overrepresentation of 31.5%.
So maybe his earlier statements actually didn't make sense then, right? Because maybe it was in fact the opposite of what he was actually saying, right? Because he was saying that white guys go to investigative units. White guys don't go to the patrol route. I mean, how'd they get promoted then? You know, and again, what he's saying is he's giving raw numbers and raw data. We didn't give the raw numbers and data. What we did, his argument's not debunking the fact that black females get promoted to deputy inspector at an average of 2.8 years, and a white male gets promoted to deputy inspector at an average of 7 years. It doesn't account for the fact that Asian males take 7.2 years. It doesn't account for the fact that black males get promoted 3.3 years. It, like, your argument doesn't debunk any of this stuff. It doesn't push anything. All it is this is why we need to DEI hard. This is why we need to discriminate. This is why it's okay for us to do it, because it's based upon these numbers. And, you know, we don't match the demographics. The NYPD doesn't match the demographics of New York City completely. Like, this is what's happening here. Like, I don't think he's ever going to make a point on this other than to give those numbers. But these numbers do not debunk the fact of the speed of time that's being given. It doesn't debunk the fact that gender and racial demographics are being pushed ahead and being given preferential treatment in the NYPD. It doesn't ignore that fact that these things break the law and they're actually discriminatory and they actually violate the things you're sitting here and complaining about.
So one thing I learned in college with major in history is that this is called when you contradict your own thesis. So his first thesis is that white males, or just whites in general, take the investigative route and they don't have the same opportunity for promotion, where blacks are more directed towards the patrol side of things in a position that they would get promoted. And again, his argument fails here. He contradicted his own argument, and then the argument is not the same argument. It's exactly what John just told you. The argument that we're saying is what it takes for someone to get promoted amount of time. We're not telling you raw numbers that there's 50 whites or 10 Asians. What we're telling you is that for those whites that are in those positions, or Asians, how many years did it take them to get to that point in comparison to their counterparts? So he's not having the same argument. I just think that he's absolutely way off, and he's contradicted his own theory.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to it. Let's see what else he's got to say. So I think we gave him enough airtime. I think after this once, then unless you come on here, you get no more burn or love on our social media or on the show, because honestly, I'm just getting dumber listening to this shit.
Look at deputy chiefs. There's only 91. 11 are black, or 12.1. 11. Which is an underrepresentation of 12.2%. Meanwhile, out of that 91, 57 or 62.6% are white, which is an overrepresentation of 30.5%. Now, if white people feel like they're being racially targeted,
why didn't we go further? Why didn't we go to assistant chief and bureau chief?
Well, there's no argument here. I just want to push back on something here. Crazy 10-7 says, yet Eric Dim keeps legitimizing this guy's qualifications. He got those qualifications after he got into aviation and capitalized and stole the training away from mission necessity. Well, I'm telling you, whether he got it before or after, the point is he eventually got those qualifications that are necessary for that position. Also, it's important to note that we're saying that here is a retired chief that had those qualifications to be in that position and still is pushing this DEI movement without even realizing it. So that's to the point, Crazy 10-7. We're not saying he's the most brightest bulb in the box, but it doesn't appear that he was a DEI hire. but he's still pushing his DEI mission because it's fools that have people behind them coaching them. It's clear that whoever coached him in this video didn't coach him in the other videos. So he has two separate coaches, and he's contradicting his own thesis and his own theory. So that's the point of bringing out his qualifications, because it shows even with someone with the qualifications is still playing this DEI game. Why? Because I agree with Marlon. The reason why they play the DEI game, because it's about nepotism, and it's about access. So DEI is the weapon that allows you to get that access, because ultimately it's about nepotism. So DEI falls right under nepotism.
Yeah, I wonder how Chief feels about DEI in his neighborhood. Okay, because the average income in his areas is nearly $300K. Okay, so how does Chief feel about DEI in his neighborhood? How does he feel about DEI in his fire department? No, yeah, I bet if you ask him that, he's gonna dodge the question. But it's okay if we do that for New York City. And a couple go rounds ago, John said that we weren't personally invested. I'm gonna have to push back on that, John. I'm gonna say that we're not emotionally invested, but we are personally invested because we have family here in this city, we have property in this city, and I still live here. So if we were gonna DEI city services, then like those of us who still live here and still have family here and still have property here are screwed, okay? Because it's us that are getting a diminished product. And part of me even thinks that the numbers they got, that again, I suspect this is coming from Pat Gordon, and I also suspect that Tish might have even given it to them. And the reason why is because this is DEI is great for both the administration and the people who want to use it as a cover for the cronies, like the Guardians. Okay, it's great. Again, DEI is an austerity measure that puts an empathic face on crappy services. Okay, it's we're all gonna get equally shitty services from the government now. Okay, and you're not going to criticize it because now it looks black and brown. And if you do criticize it, you're racist, because how dare you criticize the shitty services that you're now getting? Okay. And that's great for the city, and the cronyism being under the veil of DEI and diversity that's used by like certainly used by the Crumbs crew, right? It's great for them too. So you see, this benefits both of them, and it's why, like, I push back against Eric Sanders online. I told him he's doing the bidding of the same people that he claims to be criticizing. Okay, and not coincidentally, we see here that again, Chief, you live in New Rochelle, and if you live in the neighborhood in New Rochelle that I think you live in, there are pretty high income earners there. Okay, so again, do you want this lower, diminished government services in your area too, or is it only okay for areas where the plebs live, where the serfs live? It's only okay for the serfs, right?
What's the representation of whites in the neighborhood he lives in? Are they overrepresented, or are they on the, like, how does that work?
I haven't found it yet. Yeah,
Do you know what the
I'll look for
property
it next.
taxes are
I'll look for it
in New
next,
Rochelle?
but
The average property taxes in New Rochelle are around 25 to 28,000. It's I'm sure he's not concerned with DEI, but I'm going to look at the demographics in New Rochelle right now.
So, and David Ian brings in a point. He says, please, this guy's ridiculous. Yet during Adams' tenure as a mayor, whites were underrepresented in his administration by 90%. And not even just whites, males too. Because at one time, his top administrative officials, they were 100% female. So it wasn't just whites either. So like this whole argument of representation, overrepresentation, okay, you gave those statistics, but you're not debunking the fact of all of the stuff that we put out here. All of the discriminatory language that's being written into tests that's being written into hiring practice, that's being written into diversifying the units. You're talking underrepresented and overrepresentation, and you're only pointing out where it's okay for you. Conveniently, we left out the other chiefs, right? Let's have him finish off his last 30 seconds. Conveniently, we left those out. And conveniently, we left out the statistics. Conveniently, we left out the statistics of how many people in the captain rank and what those demographics were. Very convenient.
They're losing their positions from Black people. They're being racially discriminated against. If that's racial discrimination, please discriminate against me. Please discriminate against me. Grand Rising.
So, I mean, again, we were talking policy, we're talking diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I don't know what that data. How do you want to fix it? Do you want to be able to discriminate? That's the question. When do we meet diversity? How do we get there without discriminating against people? And how do you maintain it without discriminating against people? That's it. It's simple. And what do you do when Black people become overrepresented? What do you do at that point? What do you do where all of these inequities exist? It's the stupidest argument, and that's the point. Winston, our argument isn't white men versus Black men, which is your argument. Our argument is discrimination or not discrimination.
Well, that's been the premise of my focus here. Also, is that in order to get to this point that we have numbers exact in comparison of the police department to demographics of New York City, we have to be intentional in monitoring those numbers. And to be intentional means you have to discriminate against another group. And that's why I said, rhetorically speaking, if there are 100 people up for promotion and we're down 4% in Blacks, that means we have to increase 4% promotion rate, which means we have to discriminate against potential whites, Hispanics. And also, if we talk about gender, we're going to have to do gender discrimination or sexual orientation discrimination to get to a certain number. And that's why I said also, I think when we get to the point of where, I'm sorry, not I think, I know when we get to the point that it's top heavy Black and brown, in order to start skewing those numbers again, if we get top heavy Black and brown, and then we identify, well, in the Asian communities, the numbers are not matching. If there's, 12% Asian in the city, and now we're at 6%, now the next promotion rate, we have to be intentional. We have to discriminate against Black, brown, and whites to get to Asians. So our argument is not about white males. It is part of the conversation because white males will be discriminated against. So are white alpha females. So are Asians. We're talking about any form of discrimination is wrong. And that if we continue to go on this path of DEI, the cycle will continue. We'll discriminate against Blacks. We'll discriminate against whites. We'll discriminate against Asians. We'll discriminate against gay. We'll discriminate against short females, tall females. We're going to constantly discriminate to be intentional to get these percentages to match the demographics. So this wheel of discrimination will continue. That's what we're saying. But ultimately, and I agree with Marlon again, I think when it comes to Faison, retired Chief Faison, Pat Gordon, people of that group, really, they utilize DEI because it falls under nepotism, and nepotism gets you access. That's why someone like Richie Taylor, who is white, who's Jewish, gets so much clout in the police department because he has access. And access is the most important thing. Access gets you money, money gets you power, and power gets you in prestigious positions. So I agree. They are utilizing DEI as an infection and using it as a weapon to distort things. So DEI is an infection because it eradicates from the police department. It hurts people and it hurts the organic and suitability for the police department to promote those that are qualified. It also hurts public safety, but it's also being used so that people that want access that are part of Tier 2 in the NYPD can flourish. So it's just this wheel that just keeps moving. It's the economic wheel of the NYPD right now.
Yeah, and just before you go, I just want to, just one thing. I'm pretty sure that Faison lives in East New York, not New Rochelle. I don't know if you guys know differently, but I think that that's not accurate. I just wanted to correct that.
Someone
quick.
said it in the chat. I don't know personally. Someone
Yeah.
said in the chat, but
I don't think he lives there. I don't think that's accurate.
oh, you mean New Rochelle or East New York?
New
Rochelle.
New Rochelle.
New Rochelle.
I don't know. I'm hearing he lives in New Rochelle, but
I don't think
if
so.
we're gonna have to confirm that one. But regardless, my point is that again, the DEI is a cover for cronyism. Okay, and again, if you live in the city and you're gonna be under these city services, do you really want a diminished product responding to you when you need help? And also, there was a comment earlier from a Hoop City. I saw John put it up, and the reason why I'm saying that is because, again, if the people who are in the know, who are usually not the low information people, right? If they know that things are headed south, these people are usually the ones who they think about, like, where's my kid gonna go to school? Where am I living? What's the quality of my neighborhood? And they're not going to stay here, okay? And what's going to happen is not only does that pull away high income earners from your city, but it also takes away, it's like a brain drain, okay? Now, a lot of third world countries face this problem too, because the smartest people eventually migrate away to first world societies, okay? So what I'm talking about here is this happening within America, and how we don't want to balkanize America, where the best people leave areas like New York because they see the writing on the wall and they don't want to be at the receiving end of diminished services. And again, I brought up Faison and New Rochelle because, you know, the people who usually advocate for this stuff don't live in those areas that they're advocating for this diminished services. You know, it doesn't affect them, so they're kind of detached from it. So they're fine to advocate it because they don't really feel the effects of it. Now, if he does live in New York and I'm wrong, then I'll happy to admit that I'm wrong. Okay, but I just want to say that you know, do you really want to be at the receiving end of a poor product from government?
You know, and then the other thing is just like, so last week when we spoke about the promotion process, we spoke about how there's no structure, how people are just getting promoted, and there are people that are more qualified or just as qualified that are getting passed over, and other people are getting promoted. And none of that is being addressed at all whatsoever. Like those are all accurate claims. The data that we put out, that the actual things that we showed, not just data, the policies, the diversity, equity, inclusion policies, and even the rhetoric that's being pushed in order to push diversity, equity, inclusion, you're seeing it on full display here. So, and nothing was done to explain the differences in the speeds of people being promoted. So to me, like, that whole argument is just, well, you know, this is the data and this is why it's okay to discriminate against people. So like, just sheer number alone doesn't equal discrimination. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. I know the fire department ruled that, but it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove your argument. Those arguments, the argument of that data actually proves that you don't have an argument and you think diversity, equity, inclusion is a great thing, and it's okay to discriminate against people if they're overrepresented. And it's okay to lower standards because people are underrepresented. And I don't. I think that that's a bad way, and you're 100% right, Marlon. I take it back. I did mean to say emotionally invested. I didn't mean personally invested, but you're 100% right. I'd like my property value to stay right where it's at or continue to go higher in New York City. I don't need to lose more money to this city. And you're 100% right. And if you put out an inferior, incompetent police department, which I don't think anyone's going to argue that they are currently, and Eric Adams helped to instrument currently, that's what you're going to see. And Ron Layson brought up an excellent point, which was, well, I'd like to see the data in the last 4 years. And you're 100% right, Ron, because things, policies like this take time. and that's what happened. And if we did an analysis over time, you are going to see that there is clear favoritism being given out towards women and people of color, and there is a clear discrimination of everybody else, including white men and Asian men.
Well, I think what's interesting about his monologue also, I believe that he doesn't prove the point out loud, but I think he makes the inference, right? He makes the inference because the data that we put out and the data that you put out online, John, and we actually John and I did an episode about the same study in the infancy of this of the podcast of New York's Finest Unfiltered podcast. So this is something we've been discussing for years. And we talked about this about 3 years ago in the analysis of this data and how Asians are the most underrepresented in the police department. So he doesn't discuss the rate that people are getting promoted by year. He just tells you that there are more whites. He doesn't tell you the solution. So I believe he leaves the inference there, right? That there are more whites that are in the higher ranks than Hispanics and blacks. And if that is true, the inference is there that he's saying that the percentages are off. In order to get to those percentages, you would have to promote black and brown at a higher speed and a higher rate to catch up. So I believe that the inference is there. He doesn't say it out loud because that would be just admitting it. But I think he made the inference. And I think if you watch that again, he actually leaves that, if you could actually make the interpretation that he actually agrees with us, that the data shows that black and brown are promoted at a higher rate, especially when, and also the gender of females involved. So I believe the inference is there. And again, I think that I would like to know, where is his FOIA request? And I want to know how he gets his data. And again, we don't know where this data is from. He doesn't show us, right? If you're going to give data, you should cite it. Just the data we showed you is from Columbia University. He should show, we're taking this at face value, right? We're giving him that benefit of the doubt. But where is this data from? Is this from the NYPD? And I agree with Marlon that I'm suspicious also and very skeptical that this data could easily come from Jessica Tisch's office and utilize retired Chief Faison and utilize Pat Gordon and Eric Sanders potentially to get out this message, right? Let them do their dirty work. So I think that easily it could be coming from our office. It would make a lot of sense. Let them get their hands dirty, and Jessica Tisch could wipe her hands clean and let them fight their battle.
Yeah. Same thing with a mile and a half run, Eric Sanders is just doing Tisch's work for her. I'm sure she'd love to get rid of a mile and a half run. That will make it easier for her to fill the academy seats, This is like this is where like both sides, people who you think are really in conflict, aren't really in conflict, and why I push back against Eric Sanders, and I told him you're doing their bidding, if you really looking out for minorities, you want a level playing field, okay? You want an even playing field for everybody, because again, cream always rises to the top, okay? And the people who put in the work should see the efforts of that, the rewards of those efforts. Not we're going to see if we're gonna try to attempt to plan out diversity, and again, you can't plan you can't plan for diversity and quality at the same time, okay? You're gonna have to pick one, okay? Because again, if you have equal input, which means we all have the same chance we all have the same chance to get somewhere. We all got out the academy at 0, but not all of us ended up at the same place in our careers, okay? And if you say you want equal outcomes, that means you're inherently controlling the process, and that means the process itself won't be equal. Okay, so
yeah. So I mean, it to me, I don't know. To me, like I think that the argument's sick. He absolutely did get his. Someone just sent something from Eric Sanders' website. I'm blocked by Eric Sanders, so I can't see anything he puts because he's he's really open to civil conversation and debate, and he's really a man of character and his word. So he blocks me on social media for absolutely no reason. But whatever. I'll pull that data up in a second. But Mondani's just had this new office of equity, the mayor's office of equity, right? So his equity chief officer, she recently, like a lot of people uncovered her X posts. I actually went on there the other day to see like what she was posting on X, and she had basically deleted her whole account. And I was like, oh, that's not a good sign. And I was gonna say something about it, but I didn't, and I just left it alone. And like there's no moderate way to a Black liberation. Afua Atada Mensa, New York's, and she is now New York City's chief equity officer, right? And so tax them to the white meat. I mean, we're just clearly seeing like a completely racist push, and a push by Sanders and his cronies. And now, welcome to the club, Chief Faison. You are now one of Sanders' cronies. To basically say that it's okay to discriminate against white people. Like, that's what is being alleged here. It's like, it's perfectly okay. This was published yesterday on Sanders' website. And you could see clear as here, the architecture of authority. And what they do is sheer number alone, right? Whites in the rank of chief. So Eric Sanders has all of this data too. They're 50%, 25% Hispanic, 25% Black, 0% Asian, 25% female. So this is at the top portion of it. And so, again, what's your argument here? What are you saying? Are you saying it's okay to discriminate? That is very strange coming from a civil rights attorney or someone that claims to be, in fact, a civil rights attorney. Like, what is your argument in this picture? In depicting and putting these numbers out of what the statistical demographic makeup of compared to the statistical demographic of New York City, you're saying that it needs to align perfectly. How are you doing this without discrimination? Is it okay because white representation dominates at the top? I'm not hearing what you're saying. I'm hearing it's okay to discriminate against white people. It's okay to discriminate against Asians. It's okay to discriminate against male. And the fact that none of you have brought up the underrepresentation of Asians in here tells me you really don't give two shits. And this is more about, your argument is more of an argument about Black supremacy than it is about equity, than it is about fairness, than it is about diversity, than it is about anything else. And sorry, but it needs to be said. That's what I see when I read this, and I see a bunch of bullshit like this, and people and men and supposedly chiefs and supposedly leaders are, when they're unwilling to civilly debate any of these talking points. This isn't hard stuff here, people. Discrimination or not discrimination, I'm hearing discrimination is cool. And I'm just going to go a little further. If I hear anyone else backing these claims up and are also unwilling to come on here, you're going to get called out too. So the same way we made a lot of people relevant is the same way we'll make you fucking irrelevant too, because we'll show everybody exactly who you are and exactly how smart or not smart you are.
So I see two flashpoints here. And the first one is this, that we've become desensitized to discrimination against whites, that it's okay. Where it's okay to discriminate against whites because, and a lot of people have mentioned here in the chat, because of ancestry and what's happened to Black people in the past. And I don't think that's wrong. If a group of Jews started getting together and saying we're going to discriminate against Italians and we're going to discriminate against Blacks because of what happened during the Holocaust, that would be wrong also. The whole ideology should be, let's learn from history to not repeat it. The second flashpoint I see is that somehow the Asian community just completely gets glazed over in this conversation. That, again, that's another thing we get desensitized to, that it's almost like the Asian community just doesn't matter. And I believe that this is meant not to diversify. This is meant to make the Black and brown actually take control of the police department and control. And how do I know that? We often hear people say, oh, well, let's compare it to 1990 when it was taken over by the Irish mob. There shouldn't be any control by any specific group. This should happen organically and suitability. And New York City is more diverse now than it ever was. We don't need to have some intentional push to try to change the numbers. It will be organic in itself. And I don't think there's a problem. If there's 24% documented registered voters to the consensus of demographics and population, and about 20 to 21% of the NYPD is black, that's pretty close. Those numbers are pretty even. Now, if the numbers were 24% black and we had 1% in the police department, that might be something that could raise a couple eyebrows and say, hey, how do we get to this point? But to evaluate it then with data and to come up with a solution based on data. And I think the solution that Faison has come up with was nothing. He didn't give us a solution. I believe that the inference is that we have to be intentional and discriminate to get to the point that we make it top heavy with black and brown. And particularly not even mentioning Hispanics here. It's meant to be heavy with black. And somehow this black crumbs crew and this DEI infection has actually created a nexus to take over the police department. Why? Because they're using DEI to have full access. And that's what this is about. They all have access. I mean, look, John, you and I, we don't, same thing with Marlon. We don't have access to all the information. We have to make 4 requests. Three individual law enforcement officers who we don't know were investigated for potentially giving information to John and myself, same information that you get from New York Post or Daily News, but yet retired Chief Faison has access to numbers. Eric Sanders has access to this information. How did they get access and we don't have access? To me, that's another form of discrimination because they want a specific message to get out there. So they leak information to those that they want the information to be given to give out their message. So I believe the narrative that we're hearing right now is the narrative of the upper echelon, and that includes Jessica Tisch.
Your mic, Mont.
Twice. I just need one more for the for the tic-tac-toe, you know.
3 times, no coffee donuts for you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think, you know, I think even there, like I said before, their misguided beliefs isn't even consistent. Okay, because again, they don't care about the little guys, you know. Again, so I say that they're black supremacy, and again, there is a little bit of that hit. Because when you hear Eric Sanders' statements about, you know, this constant, there's an undertone there that you know that basically that in his interview with Corey P. Geese, there's an undertone of basically like the black, like the blacks were the best of the department, or you know, you have to go back and watch it, but there's a segment, I think it's around 30 minutes in there where I'm like, bro, you're really going off the deep end on that one, you know. But I think, here's what I think that's an appeal to tribalism, and that's an appeal to keep the lower serfs in line with all this, thinking that okay, these guys are gonna work for you too, just because you're from the same tribe. Okay, because I think again, it's these guys use that argument to help people connected to them and to help people in their friend groups and their peers, you know, and they don't care about you, the little guy. They don't care about if you're black and brown in the squad, you know. They don't care if you're black and brown on patrol, or if you're not in with them, you're screwed like everybody else. Okay. So I just think when he made statements like that in that interview with Corey, it's an emotional appeal to people's inherent tribalism, because everyone is a little tribal, because you know it's good to be proud of who you are and where you've come from. The problem is that when that pride is like, when you're obsessed with it, you know, and that pride becomes like that again, that supremacy and a means to weaponize racism, and in you thinking that, you know, that in order to make the scale even, we need to use racism from your side against everybody else. Yeah. So I this is my thinking on their black supremacy.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear as day. That's exactly what it is. You know, I mean, like it's you know, and Eric, I don't even want to say we've been desensitized to it, because I just want to say, like, it's overall white males have been neutered and they're afraid to speak. And if you really want to see neutered white males, look no further than the NYPD. I mean, because they're the perfect example. Like, literally the perfect example of, this is wrong. I'm just going to pretend like I don't see what's happening. And I'm just going to pretend like Eric Adams wasn't talking about me. And I'm just going to pretend like, oh no, I'm not mad that he said I kicked those crackers' ass. I'm not. Could you imagine if I became the mayor and a video came out and I said, yeah, when I was in the police department, I was kicking those blank, put anything there, any racial slur there, what would happen to me? The white men would all, like, he needs to step down immediately. But instead, we had guys like fat, soft-bodied men like Joe Borelli, little grifters, little fake Republican Democrats like Joe Borelli. I don't care that he said that because I'm not a Karen. It's like, you don't care that he said that, but if you said something like that, you would have had to leave your position. So, and if it's okay to say that, then that's fine. Then we should all be allowed to say racial slurs and it be completely acceptable then. It's one or the other. Like, there's no, and you're right, Marlon. It's like never a standard with anything. And so, like, for us to talk about it, it's the same thing. Like, it's the other taboo. It's the same taboo. Like, oh, look, we could bash the job all day long at work, and we could bash the job all day long in the locker room, and we could bash the job all day long in retirement, and we could talk about all the nonsense in the politics in New York City, and we could bitch about the unions, and we could do all that. But don't you go on a podcast and do it. Who the hell do you think you guys are? And it's the same thing with this DEI movement. Everybody knows it's bullshit. Everybody knows it's bullshit. The people hanging on are the people that want to grab power, and they try to justify it for actions that happened 400 years ago from people who are not my fucking ancestors, aren't Marlon's ancestors, aren't Eric's ancestors, and aren't any of the Asian or Indian or Pacific Islanders ancestors either. So we really don't give two fucks. It's about you people saying that you want to take over, because Eric Sanders labeled it out perfectly. We taken over this bitch, right? That's what it is. Could you imagine if I was an attorney, a civil rights attorney, and I was saying we taken over this bitch? The backlash that I would get, I would have front page of the paper, New York Post, front page of the paper, Daily News. We would be getting crushed right now, and we'd be getting censored even further than we are already. I mean, this is a ridiculous argument, dude, and there really isn't an argument, and it doesn't lose me that people will do this. Are we talking behind a mic right now and speaking at people? Yeah. Is this an echo chamber right now? Yeah. But we open the floor up for people to come in here and bring their ideas, and they don't do it. And they don't do it because they can't, and they know they will get exposed. Simply, they're getting exposed just talking from behind the mic about their way of thinking and their lack of thinking and their lack of critical thinking. I mean, so again, you're all welcome. If you need to hold hands, you could all come on here together and we'll give you the floor. If what we're saying is inaccurate, we'll give you the floor. You could come on here and speak to everyone. You don't. And don't play the bullshit. You're not going to give us credit because you guys get no views. You have no following. So no one's watching you. We're the only people. If you want people to really see what you're saying, the only way you're going to do it is you're going to come on the Finest Unfiltered, and you're going to come on New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast. Sorry, hate to break the news to you, but like I said, we made some of you relevant. We could easily make you just as irrelevant.
Yeah, well, that's why you get people like retired Chief Faze on here addressing the Finest Unfiltered, because it's the only way to make their conversation relevant and to try to manipulate the point, because our point is actually being heard, because we actually are providing the truth. And I do believe there's a portion. Yes, I do believe that people are desensitized to discrimination against white males. And I believe that the white males that are actually being discriminated against, that get promoted through rocket fuel in the upper echelon, the NYPD, have found a way to empathize with it and sort of like manufacture that it's okay. Now, DEI is supposed to be this thing that eliminates racism. In fact, I believe it rebrands it, and it actually reinforces racism. It reinforces discrimination, because we told you, in order, to utilize DEI and in order to get the percentages even internally within the NYPD and externally what's going on in the public, you have to be intentional to discriminate against a group to get another group to a specific point. So this is not eliminating racism or discrimination. It's actually reinforcing it. And I do believe, unfortunately, that retired Chief Faison and people like Patrick Gordon and in my opinion, Eric Sanders, that they want this manufactured push for racism because it allows DEI to flourish. Because what is DEI? It's it falls under the umbrella of access and nepotism. And I always say often, if you look at the police department, it's a tiered system: tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 3 is general population, but tier 1 and 2, tier 2 get all the access. So if tier 2, which is Patrick Gordon and the Guardians, have the opportunity to utilize DEI to get them more access so that they are part of that tier 1 and tier 2, that's the ultimate goal. So this DEI movement, a majority of it with the NYPD, is a major push for that nepotism. It gets them access. It gets them those amenities, right? And also, right, we see it with the disciplinary matrix, right? If we utilize DEI and say that blacks are disciplined at a disproportionate rate in comparison to their counterparts, that's great for the Guardian, someone that's in tier 2, to get more access and to get those mitigating factors, right? We see it, right? Marlon was terminated. So I can show you right now, it doesn't matter about being black. Marlon was terminated without cause, no exit interview, a highly decorated, intelligent detective, and you see it here on this podcast and on this network, how intelligent he is off the job in comparison to on the job. This is who Marlon is, right? Ambitious before and ambitious now. So it doesn't matter about being black, because if someone else is black and in the Guardians and they have access, if they did not take the vaccine and if they lied, they could still be on the job. They could still be on the job, where Marlon told the truth and was respectful and actually asked questions, and he was terminated. So ultimately, DEI for many portions of the NYPD equals nepotism, and it equals access, right? Access to amenities. And that's what ultimately this is about. Everyone in the NYPD wants to be a part of that tier 1 and tier 2. Because if you're in tier 3, as Marlon had put out the disciplinary matrix, you're fucked. That's the reality. And you know what? Shame on these people. Shame on these people for manufacturing racism. That's what we're doing. Retired Chief Faison, think about it. You are manufacturing and pushing racism, because you're saying that there are more whites in positions of inspector and other executive ranks. So yes, that means that John and myself and Marlon are right in showing that data from Columbia University, that blacks are now being promoted at a higher rate, and it has been going on. John and I spoke about this 3 years ago. So Ron Layson said, let's look at the last 4 years. Great point. I'm sure it's going on before the 3 years that we spoke about it, with the data of people getting elevated at a higher rate. And I saw it with my own eyes. I saw white XOs not get promoted. Took them a long time, because according to Faison, we have to even out those numbers. He didn't give you the solution, but we can make the inference and implication that he agrees that the data shows blacks are getting promoted at a higher rate.
Yeah. There's a comment from Beauty here. Beauty, you're absolutely right in that, right? It's business, right? And sometimes when I hear Sanders talk, I wonder how much of that is just business and how much of that does he actually believe in? Because when he first came on this platform, and I'm sorry to make this Sanders, to bring up Sanders, I'm really trying not to, but it all plays so much into these arguments.
It's everything's the Finest Unfiltered. Those guys, screw them. They brought it. They want it.
It's true.
As they said in Rambo, they drew first blood.
It's true. But the thing is, when he first came on here, he too was criticizing the lowered standards and what's going on in the department. And he talks all the time about how the job used to be in the past, and now all of a sudden you want to lower the standards too. So you have to really wonder how much of this is business, and in particular attempts to get a consulting out of it. That's my theory. That's my theory only. Okay. But you have to wonder how much of that he actually believes himself. Okay.
You gotta love people like this one here, Squad Life. You know what, Squad Life? I gotta laugh. I love these comments. Thank you so much for being here. He says, Makari, you are not that important or newsworthy. Small potatoes. Hey, if you think that, why are you even? But you're on the chat watching. So you know what? Thank you so much for being a fan. We appreciate it. Just remember, no one hates on someone that's doing worse than they are. So apparently, Makari's doing better than you.
Yeah, I don't know, Squad Life. I don't know. I was quoted hundreds of times in the last 3 years. I've been major media appearances. I mean, we don't even know who you are, dude. Like, so,
Yeah,
I mean,
Squad Life doesn't even have a face to the name here. I tell you, if you don't have a face to your name, you're a bitch.
And then people are trying to make themselves relevant by punching up, right? Like, and who are they punching up at us? They're punching up at us, right? Like, and it didn't not occur to me that Eric Sanders and all his cronies start attacking the messaging about the unlawful, illegal, corrupt, what was the word that they didn't like? Fraudulent pensions that were being given out that was still not that story has yet to be written. It didn't elude me the fact that we started getting attacked immediately upon that. And then 3 days later, he unleashes his new website about how he wants to consult and he wants to do institutional consulting for, organizations like the NYPD that he sues all the time. So it didn't elude, like, that fact did not lose me whatsoever. Like, I was like, that's why that happened. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, that's why all these guys that wanted to align themselves with this platform and be on this platform and make themselves relevant to pretend like they're part of a team. That's why all these guys all of a sudden came out of their face and started deciding that they're going to speak for New York City, who's unwilling to speak for themselves and still can't explain it till today, right? Still can't explain it to today because all of the laws that he posted, like the statistics that Faison was handed and spoon-fed, though, like, they don't explain what we're saying. They don't debunk the arguments that we're giving, and look, here's Pat Gordon. You guys heard it here. You heard it here first. Here's Pat Gordon. Here he is.
Concerns that I receive a lot is a lot of black members of the NYPD says that it feels like black and browns are under attack right now in the agency, right? And I know we had some issues that happened a couple of months ago, but we know the agency is 180 years old, and this is not the first time they've seen something unfortunate. But it seems like the response, and this is not my words, this is the words of over 2,000 paid members. They said it seems like that the response is that all blacks and all browns are, we're all, it's not in to be black or brown, right? And some of the things that they use that's being used is some of the demotion of black executives. We had Tariq Shepard, we had Paul Gamble, we had some Latinos that was ousted, we had Miguel Iglesias. So now I receive increased pressure, like, hey, what are you doing? What is the Guardians doing? Because it's just a feel. It may be for a number of reasons, and they may not know the reasons. There might be things behind the scenes that we don't know, but the appearance is that. The second concern that I'm receiving highly is it appears that everything is a tie announcement. Someone brought to my attention every promotion that we've had since January has had somebody with the last name, make a chief, right? And we've only had maybe 1-2 blacks make it, but it's a whole bunch of Italians walking across the stage. And they pointed out the chief of the department is Italian, the XO of the department is Italian, the CEO of the office is Italian, personnel people. So they're like, when we see one group running things, and this is the way it looks. And again, it may be things that I don't know, right? So, this is what I want to put on you. And I know you run a big city, like the police department is just one portion of what you're responsible for. And so we just wanted to put out there that these are concerns, and maybe you can help us. We can have some conversations because it might be things that people are not paying attention to.
So the president of the Guardian Association, who has direct access to all of this data, comes out. And instead of citing the data and saying these are the concerns based upon the data that was handed and spoon-fed to Chief Faison, he comes out and he says, it seems like everything's Italian now. and there's too many O's getting promoted. Not that, oh, hey, look, here's the number of black executives, black and brown executives. Here's the number of recently promoted Italians. It seems like. Okay, Pat. I mean, I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I'm not a black man, and I'm not a black person, and I'm not a person of color, but I could tell you this. If I was, he'd be the last person that I would vote for to represent me. I'm just,
I tell you right now, again, that's why I say we are getting desensitized to discriminating against white males. I mean, people are sitting back, and especially the upper echelon of the police department, no one's saying, hey, wait a minute, how can you say that? How can you say that's pretty derogatory and discriminatory against Italians to say that, oh, there's too many people getting promoted with O's. So how do we stop the people with O's getting promoted? That means we have to discriminate against them to even out and get people in your section, your group, the Guardians, promoted. We have to discriminate against another group. So we're cutting racism or prejudice or discrimination, whatever you say, with more discrimination. So that's why I say DEI doesn't eliminate discrimination. It actually manufactures and rebrands more discrimination. But I think the key factor is what we've been speaking about here is that he's not utilizing DEI because he feels that blacks are being discriminated against because he could give two shits about Marlon. He's doing it because it gives him access. It gives him access to the mayor. And the mayor knows that. Eric Adams knows that he's not talking about DEI. He knows that he wants access. But this is one of his stupid idiots that he can use, Eric Adams, and like, okay, I'll give you what you want. We'll discriminate against Italians. We'll put more black in there. We'll get more chocolate. We'll get rid of the white chocolate. And that's why I said we get desensitized to it. Shame on the upper echelon. Shame on people like John Shell that never spoke out about this until he retired in October. But now 3 months later, he actually remembers that whites were discriminated against. He couldn't see it back then because he was so blind to what's going on. But now his eyes have opened 3 months later. Oh, yeah, wow, we were discriminated against. Now that he's off his knees and he doesn't have Eric Adams down his throat, he can actually see what's going on here. It's a shame it took to the point of retirement and the point of no relevance that you have to watch a small podcast like this with small potatoes to get the right information. So, again, listen, House of Lies put someone without their name as a bitch, LOL. Yeah, I think that if you're going to actually listen, if you don't put your name there, fine. But if you're going to have an argument and call people out, and you're not showing your face. That is a bitch move. Absolutely, because that says a lot. That says how would you deal with people in real confrontation and real conflict and not behind some keyboard, right? Because this isn't real. These aren't real conversations. People like Juju wouldn't say the stuff that they say to myself, John and Marlon, in real life, in person, without a keyboard shielding them. So we try to make this as realistic as possible. So if you are going to call things out, Squad Life, show your face. Show us who you are, because maybe we can invite you on here and we can have a civil course debate. That's the difference. Myself, John, and Marlon, we could be very calm and poised and have a conversation with anyone. Can you do that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, all right. So, yeah, last thing on this, and I think we should start to wrap it up on this. We've been going almost 3 hours. Again, my thing is DEI is discriminatory. I haven't heard a good case for it. Haven't seen anywhere where it's improved anything. I think it violates equal opportunity law, violates the Civil Rights Act 1964, Title VII. It violates everything that we're all celebrating today, which is Martin Luther King Day, and all of really his talking points were and the majority of his talking points were equality, not equity. It wasn't about pushing people ahead. It was about giving equal opportunity. So I'm not gonna co-opt his messaging or try to get on there, but like a lot of the stuff he said, I totally agree with, and DEI actually is in direct opposition of it. So anything else on this before we start to read the super chats?
No, I think that we really drilled down, and the message is clear. While DEI is an infection, it does create more racism. It's a blanket of protection under the real mission, which is access under nepotism and cronyism. I think that's the real message going on here, and we have to eradicate both. And the only way is for the squeaky wheel to get the oil. With that being said, almost 3 hours into it, like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for the unique engagement. Absolutely. We appreciate everybody in the chat. And again, I think the whole point is freedom of speech, freedom of expression. If you think this is small potatoes and you don't like the message that we're putting out here, you don't like to hear the truth and data, then don't watch. You're free to watch another channel. Watch retired Chief Faison, listen to his data, and if you believe that's true, then listen to it. And you know what? It's a great opportunity for him to come on here and let's have that actual debate. I would like to know from retired Chief Faison, you presented this information. What is your solution of how do you get to that point? How do we even out the numbers? If you were commissioned tomorrow, how would you do it? So with that being said, Marlon, pass it to you.
Yeah, the people who really want to help the podcast, I don't understand that comment too, but maybe I'm missing context on it. But yeah, people need to understand like this is a much bigger deal. It's you noticed in that video with Pat Gordon and Eric Adams that Pat mentioned nothing about cronyism, about stopping the cronyism. It wasn't about the inherent unfairness, if there isn't, based on his argument, right? It's not about the inherent unfairness. It's just that we're not getting our share either. Okay, so it's not about the system being equal for all of us. It's about his crumbs, and again, that doesn't benefit anybody, and it doesn't benefit the black and brown cops on the bottom. It doesn't benefit. It only benefits the select few who are among the cronyism class. Okay. And this only puts an empathetic, it puts an empathetic face on their cronyism, okay? And it's meant for you to feel like, okay, we're helping out the black and brown cops, but no, we're not. No, we're not. We're just helping out their cronies, okay? If we want to help everybody, we need a system that's we need a meritocracy again, okay? And we need to get rid of the cronyism. We need transparency in the system, and we need actual fairness rather than some BS marketing term that they're going to use to shove down cronyism down our throats.
Totally agree. So listen, thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to read the super chats. Before we do, just look, if you don't agree with us, it's fine, but there's ways to debate things, calling us white supremacists, dog whistles. I mean, ridiculous. Come up with the argument. Answer the question. How do we achieve those numbers? Very simply. More importantly, let's get away from politics for a second. Let's get away from our differences where we don't agree. NYPD Detective Stephen Procia he's been 13 years on the job. He just was a survivor of thyroid cancer, and now he was just diagnosed with having a brain tumor. So he's going through chemotherapy, radiation treatment, and he's having, this is not a good thing. So if you guys could help him out, fundthefirst.com. They're running a fundraiser for him. The guys he worked with put it together. I forget the exact name of the detective that put it together. But if you guys could help out a member of the NYPD who's really going through a hard time, help him and his family. Obviously, he's not going to be able to work, receive overtime. So it's going to be a large financial struggle on him and his family. And so if he doesn't have to worry about that, that would be good. So if you guys could go over to Fund the First and help Detective out, we would appreciate that.
Yeah. And please, I've been through it myself, and the loss of Derek and the battle. And for some people, I've heard some very ignorant comments. Well, about he has medical insurance. I heard the same thing about Derek, that we had medical insurance. And medical insurance just doesn't cut in this country. And you find out how much red tape is behind it. And the amount of emotional stress and financial stress that they have to go through is astronomical. First of all, when a loved one has cancer, it becomes a job. The constant back and forth to doctors day in and day out. It's a daily thing. It's a job. It's exhausting. It's tiresome on the family. And then in some pills you just can't get by prescription. And some pills that are part of clinical trials that have not even been proven yet, but when it comes to your family, you do whatever it takes, are $40,000 just for one pill. There's a pill out there that's actually $400,000. But when it comes to your family, do whatever it takes. So if anyone thinks that medical insurance is enough, I hope this never happens to you. So dip into your pockets if you can, because the astronomical stress that they're going through between financial and especially economically is it's really damaging, and I just pray for them. I really do.
Yeah, and this, let's send our prayers to this detective, and do what we can to help him out, and let's spread awareness about it, okay? But I tend to get angry about this because this is why we need the unions to do more, okay? And we need you to be more vocal about healthcare, okay? Because where cops aren't getting apparently we're not getting any healthier. I keep almost every day I see something for a cop that's facing some sort of a medical issue, and we need to be vocal about this. We need the unions to push back for our healthcare and make sure that when guys God forbid they get some illness, that they're getting the best treatment they can for those illnesses, so they can get past it and get back to their lives. But
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, please, you got to help, because I tell you this: when you're healthy, you realize in life you got 1,000 problems when you're healthy, but when you're sick, you got one problem, and it's a big problem. So do what you can, help out. God bless this family. I pray for you, brother, every day, and we hope you get a recovery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's get on to the super chats and move forward. But yeah, do whatever you can to help Detective Prosha and his family out. We appreciate it. And thank everybody that did donate from the postings about it too. Appreciate you guys. So all right, let's go. Modern Samurai, great show again. Morning, gentlemen. Tackling the important issues matter. Sometimes sometimes uncomfortable conversations need to be addressed to move forward as a society, a city, and a people. That's the thing I think that's lost today. It's like, oh, you shouldn't offend me. We should be all not talk about any of this stuff. And it's actually the exact opposite. We should be, and for a healthy society, we should be in a constant state of debate and a constant state of where we're pushing back at ideas and looking at norms and saying, is that accurate? Is that not accurate? And we should all have the ability to do so peacefully and civilly. And when we lose that, we will lose the society and this great nation. So we're watching that play out now, currently on the streets of America, unfortunately. And unfortunately, I think it's going to get a lot worse because of people's inability to actually express their ideas and to hear other people's ideas and debate them. So it's a great point.
Shout out. Thank you for the coffee and donuts. So I'm a firm believer. Yes, we need to have civil course debate constantly. The more conversations we have, it disarms one another and we come to some compromise, or at least understand one another. If we don't have civil course debate, I believe it leads to more violence, leads to swords, it leads to guns, it leads to violence, because people get so pent up of emotion and they're not letting out and expressing themselves, and it leads to violence. So I think that a key to de-escalation, whether it's law enforcement or just nationwide, it's conversations just like this.
Yeah, and it also leads to a balkanized society, okay? And you don't want a balkanized America. In an America like this, you're going to have to read up on history of balkanization. But in an America like this, the red states get redder, the blue areas get bluer, and the wealth gap and the inequity gap gets even wider, okay? So you don't want to live in an America like that.
Nah, I totally agree. It's told to you. So back when the DEA posted it after you did, they are shameful. Talking about the fundraiser. So yeah, I noticed that too. I'll say, what bothered me, and I'll be honest, it actually did bother me, because I posted it about 40 minutes later. The DEA posted it, and I had posted it late because people had reached out. A lot of people had reached out, a lot of friends of the detective. Hey, could you post this on your social media? Could you guys talk about this? I said, yeah, no problem. But we received it like a day or two earlier. So I was like, oh, we'll get to it, because the social media at that time was pretty, it was a little hectic, I want to say. So I didn't think I would help anyone to promote it at that time. So I was waiting for the noise to die down a little bit. And then after I posted it, then the Detectives Endowment Association posted it. And I sat there, and I don't know it to be true, but I believe it to be true. I honestly think it just showed how self-serving they really are. And I don't think they really give a shit about anybody but themselves. And I think they only posted it to try to attempt to save face, to like show that they actually care, when we all know they really don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. I hate to put it that way, but and by the way, I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I don't think that I am. I think it's disgusting. And honestly, I think all of these fundraisers, the union should share. When you have sick members of the department, when you have people that are going through medical and financial struggles, and these campaigns are coming from verified sources, I don't think people should be coming to us, and we should be secondary. We should be secondary. We should be following up the unions, people who have platforms on the job, people who claim to care about cops and their mental health and their well-being and their physical health. Yeah, like we should all share, but we should be secondary to the unions that represent them, right? And we shouldn't be the first to do it. And unfortunately, as everyone sees, we are the first, right? When someone gets jammed up, they come to us. They're constantly asking us, what do we do? What do I do? What do you think? This is what they're saying. This is what they're not saying, and it's honestly shameful. It is shameful.
Yeah, listen, on a daily basis, I know for myself and John, we often speak about it, say to them all, I'm fending calls from cops. Sometimes it's little things that you just need help with, something with CCRB or just some issue with the job, or sometimes they just want to talk and vent, and I don't mind. It's a pleasure to do it. And we have become, an apparatus to help out with the cops, but the unions absolutely should be a dominating force where we are secondary. And I'm happy to step in that role, and we all are, but they should be a dominating force. They have the funding behind them and they have the manpower. So again, to this family or any family suffering from cancer, especially brain cancer, God bless you. I pray for you. And to that family, if you need anything, I please reach out. I would love to help in any way I can. And in that way, honor Derek by it, because he was such a warrior through this battle. What I seen from an 8-year-old boy from my son was just so amazing. So God bless.
It's told you back when, says Faison should come on the podcast again. Look, he's invited. To be fair, he's never been on New York's Finest Unfiltered podcast, but yeah, he's welcome to come on and debate his points. And
I just want to say, Juju, I don't usually acknowledge him, but he's a real asshole, and he deserves a second smack. He says, why would cops call someone who can't help them, Eric? Your story don't add up. My story doesn't add up. My son died of cancer. I know what the hell you're talking about. You deserve a second smack, first of all, Juju. Adeline, we know exactly where you are, who you are. We're here to help, and it doesn't have to be by funding. It could be by showing compassion. Also, I've studied all the clinical trials and all the avenues to help someone in cancer. So, Juju, go fuck yourself. Thank you.
He's a real tough guy behind the keyboard. He really is. That's all right. It's all right. So,
yeah.
All right,
Juju,
Benny boy.
I say, Juju, why don't you do a smoker with me at some time, or do an MMA match or jiu-jitsu? I love it. Anytime, Juju. And I prefer the parking lot.
No, he won't. He ain't doing that.
Yeah.
I give him about 4 seconds.
Yeah, he ain't doing that. Or he'll do it, and then he'll miraculously get injured or sick right before. So Benny Boy, welcome to the podcast. Never seen you before. There are hardworking blacks who don't benefit from DEI. It's the scammers who benefit. Two things rise to the top: cream and scam. The scam rises first. It's a great point. And again, that DEI initiative for the test, it proved that, right? Hardworking Black and brown people, hardworking women were passed over as a result of a DEI initiative. It actually screwed them. It screwed them. So you're 100% right, Benny. Welcome to the show. It's told to you about back when. How many supervisors would get promoted in the private sector with no civil service test? Is that why public service was chosen?
Listen, I think it's a fair point. Great. Thank you for the coffee and donuts. I think it's a fair point. I will say this. There are a lot of people that are have a great potential in the NYPD and never get to see that potential. And there's a lot of people that if it wasn't for the NYPD, they'd probably be homeless somewhere. So yeah, it's definitely twofold. Great point.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great executives of every ethnicity who who have left the job early. You know, could have had much longer careers and should have gone much higher. You know, had it not been for the nonsense that goes on this job. And this is again why it needs to go.
Yeah, it wasn't like the CO of Highway, a female at one point, Papa Michael, and they forced her off for not taking the vaccine. Pretty sure, you know. I don't think she had a problem with the clutch.
Yeah.
She didn't have a
listen,
problem with the highway clutch.
I see some women on the job, badass, that could handle that Road King. So this is ridiculous that they have to lower the standards. So shout out to those women that do pass wheel school, that handle that bike. God bless you. I can tell you right now, I can't handle a Road King, and I'm strong. It's you know, you got to know what you're doing. Shout out to them. Road King is too much bike for me.
My father had a Road King. He like forced my father was a pain in the ass, so he was like, he had a million toys and he wanted like them to be perfect. So he got it and he's like, "Oh, I'll take it around the block." And I'm like, nah, I don't want to drive it. I would never drive his cars or his motorcycles. He's like, "Take it around the block." And I'm like, I don't want to take it around the block. I'm like, something's going to happen. You're going to blame me a month from now that I did something wrong on the bike. I'm like, I don't want to take it around the block. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel comfortable with it because, dude, and I was squatting. I think I was squatting like close to 400 pounds at the time, right? And I was like, I still didn't feel comfortable on the bike. I didn't feel like if it went so far to the left that I could just pull it back up. Anyway, long story short, we're arguing. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to argue with him. I get on the Road King. I don't ever shift it out of first gear. I shift it into first gear. I literally cruise around the block. I come back. I park in front of his house. I park it. I put it in. He goes, "What'd you do?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, I didn't have that scratch. I'm like, "Bro, are you fucking kidding me?" I was like, "This is why I didn't want to take the bike around the block." But I'll be honest with you, dude. I was not comfortable on the bike.
That's a lot of bike.
It was too much bike for me. I was not comfortable on it. You know,
that's a lot of bike. Like, you know, drive a Fat Boy or a Soft Tail, but a Road King, that's a lot of bike. And by the way, Juju is freaking stupid. He says, "Bro, you live out of state. You think I can't fly back to New York? Set it up, brother. I'll do a match. I'll tap you out in 3 seconds."
We'll come to John Jay, watch you run down the hallway it'll be high school for you all over again, Juju.
He's gonna say, "Oh, there's no choke. It's a chokehold, man."
Don't
worry, Juju. I already saw your picture. It wasn't very intimidating.
Yeah. It'll be high school for you all over again, big guy. You know, I go running down the hallway, right? You know, you guys forget I spent a couple of nights in Central Booking before. I don't give a two shits. So Pat Donahue, he says, "Take a moment to remember Detective Sean Carrington, who was killed in the line of duty January 19th, 1998. Never forget." Yeah, you know, rest in peace to Detective Carrington. You know, a lot of people, honestly, on the 19th, detective out of actually, I believe he was still a police officer. Police officer Danny Sanchez, Highway 5, worked with him in the 123, great guy, nicknamed Batman. He actually passed away too on January 19th, I believe 2021 or 2022. But a lot of other people. There was a lot, unfortunate, a lot of line of duty deaths on the 19th. So. Yeah, thanks, Pat. Crazy 10-7 says, "Please forward this to Faison for a grammar book."
Oh man.
Stephen DES X9P. "Let DEI give free study classes so everyone has the same chance to pass the test." So everyone has the same chance to pass the test. Let DEI give free study classes so everyone has the same chance. Oh, I get you. Yeah, like free study for everybody. I get you. 100%. Look, if it's not equal, it's discriminatory. If you're pointing out groups like this is only for you, you know, like it's discriminatory, whether you know it or not. You know, and again, I have no problem with people trying to help each other, but help the right way. Bring people up the right way. Don't try to beat people down to step on their heads. You know, it's told to you so back when Italians have been discriminated against for ions in the NYPD. Look, everybody's been discriminated in the NYPD. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying black people haven't been discriminated against. I'm not sitting here and saying brown people haven't been discriminated against. I'm not saying women haven't been discriminated against. But where is it discrimination and where is it competence? Like, where does that level End off. You know what I mean? Like a big thing with the Italians back in the day was, one, they brought in a lot of organized crime. So a lot of police departments throughout America did not want them because of the criminal element. But you know the other reason they didn't want them? It's because Italians are traditionally short. And so at the time, the guys that were police officers were physical. They were big, strong men. And that's kind of why they were discriminating based upon their size. Like Petrosino, for those of you, the Lieutenant Joe Petrosino, famed NYPD lieutenant, right? Italian guy. He had to they had to convince the police commissioner to hire him because he was 5'1". And he's like, look, this guy's a tough guy. Like, this guy will deal with the mafia. He's like, you need to hire this guy. Like, you need to get into these ethnic minority Italian communities. You need to hire this guy. So, like, I don't think any of us are sitting here and saying that, oh, it was bad for this one. It's bad. Like, no, it's been equally bad for, I think, every group in America, equally bad for every group in the NYPD. You know, and what we're saying is, like, why do we want to continue to double down on discrimination? Like, what's discrimination? What's, you know, and what's equal? Like, are we having equal opportunity? And where we have to really equal out the points. It's like, you know what? Some people just aren't fit to do everything. It just is what it is. I'll tell you, I'll never be a fighter pilot. I get nauseous. I don't have the equilibrium strength for it. It's not because they're holding me back and they hate Italians. I just can't fly the planes. I don't have the ability to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, any form of discrimination is no good. It shouldn't be any form of discrimination. That's the bottom line. Women have been discriminated against the NYPD. Gays were discriminated, right? That's why they have goal. Any form of discrimination is wrong. That's what we're saying here, retired Chief Faison. Even blacks have been discriminated against in the department. We know that. Any form of discrimination is wrong. Even if now you're saying it's okay to discriminate against whites to fix it, that's wrong also. Right? Two wrongs don't make a right. That's not how we correct history. We correct history by not doing it again and learning from it and saying, what did we learn and how do we move forward?
It's told to you so back when. Ask, this is for Chief Faison. I'd like to know this answer too. How many tests did you take on test day? It's a great question, and it's a fair question. And I'm sorry, I'd like to know the answer to it, because there's a lot of people that did not take tests on test day that I say that if they did, they would have never passed a promotional exam. And, you know, for those of you that don't like it, too effing bad. But that's a great question. And you know, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are, we'd like you to answer that question.
That's a great question. I want to know that too. I took all my tests on test day. That's a great question.
Yep. Reckoning Cage, $99.99. Thank you, brother. Very generous of you. Good morning, gentlemen. Again, always a great show, keeping me always in the know. Appreciate you. Appreciate that. Very generous of you. Always very generous. Good brother, Frankie Pagliucci. What looks like reform is actually a way to weaken the system from within. Well, look, I don't think every idea is a bad idea, right? I just think, like, we have to be able to criticize, not just go along with every single thing, right? There has to be the ability for dissenting voices to be brought up on every single issue. There has to be an ability to do that, and it shouldn't be wrong when people do that. It should be welcome. We need dissenting voices. If anyone comes to me with a business idea, it's funny because I usually rip it to shreds, right? And then they're like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. That's why I came to you. You know, because, like, I wanted to hear, like, what I was missing, like what I wasn't thinking about, right? Or if like, you know, and that's like what we need in society. And we need any idea that's presented. It shouldn't be, yes, Chief, that's a great idea. Like, hey, look, this is a real issue. Like, this is a real issue. This diversity issue is a real issue. Like, we're really shutting our women out from these things. Let's think around that and let's have a real conversation. That doesn't mean you're sexist. Doesn't mean you're a racist. Like, let's bring up the points. Like, hey, what if we remove the clutch from the Harley and make the clutch easier? It's like, okay, that's a good idea. Okay, but we're going to void the warranty. It's going to bring up other issues. It's going to be a safety issue. At the end of the day, does it make the highway unit better? No? Okay, so why are we doing it? You know, and like I think that's the important thing that we just need to get at. So you know, and Frankie was wrongfully terminated by the NYPD, and you know, he's fighting that case in court, and you know, we're gonna stand by you. Like, what's wrong is wrong, what's right is right. Like, you know, and it is what it is. You know, so
yeah. And when does Joe Iola and Pat Gordon talk about Frankie? When are you guys gonna talk about him too? So yeah,
and fly Eagles fly, go Birds, super sticker. Thank you, we appreciate it. Even though you're an Eagles fan, you have a poor poor choice in football teams. We appreciate it, and you know, the only good thing that came out of Philly is Rocky. All right, that's and cheesesteaks.
Yeah, cheesesteaks. Can't forget about cheesesteaks.
Nah, I like Philly. Philly's a cool city. I like Philly.
And just as long as you don't stay there too long, and then you realize, holy shit, this is like New York. Yeah, it's good. Stay for the weekend. Don't go much longer than that. You know?
South Street's pretty cool though. It's like like little mini village, you know.
yeah.
I like all of it, honestly. I like Philly. I was actually gonna buy property there like a couple of years back, and I wound up not doing it. But I like Philly. It's just cold as shit there, like New York. That's the only problem. And it's cold. It's actually cold here in Florida today too.
Pats and Geno's, what do you like?
You know, I don't really have a favorite.
No question about it. That's the only right answer, Pats. Okay.
Yeah.
Which one do you like, guys, in the chat? Put up your.
I like the one. I like the ones when you go to the market. When you go to the market at the.
That market's a cool
depot?
place, dude.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's a cool place.
They actually got the better cheesesteaks over there. It's a real tiny. What is it called? It's like their version of the Port Authority over there.
Skinny Joe Merlino, he just opened up a cheesesteak place, Skinny Joe's Cheesesteaks. I'm curious, like I want to go just to check it out. Like I'm curious, you know, is it like commercialized? It looks like a nice spot. So
I'm surprised you don't pass on the way out, because anytime I'm going down south, I gotta make a quick stop, get my cheesesteaks, and hit the road again. Yeah.
Well, I'm often down the Jersey Shore, and you'll always catch me in the Borgata. So if you're looking for me, check the 2-5 table in the poker room in the Borgata. So, you know, okay, Dave. All right. Oh, this is Mike Smith. Here we go. He's blasting somebody. Dave Espagarzara, 5th Squad, man up. Stop being a DEI detective. Get the testosterone up and be a man. Stop with the BS excuses and be a man. Shaking my head. See, look, here's the thing I love about Mike, right? You know who he is. He says it behind his own name. He says what he's got to say, and that's it. You know,
that's it.
Like that.
He backs up his word, right? Yeah, he's a good man. Good man. Good detective too.
So look, Dave, we don't know you, but I'm just gonna say man up, bro. You know.
Hey, Dave, if you want to man up, come on the show and tell us some stories about Mike.
Yeah. Floor's yours, bro.
Come on the podcast. Bro, either one puts Kensington and Philly is beautiful. That place is fucked up.
Dude, like some of the property was like I think it was like a decade ago. It was like literally like it was like a 2-family house for like $15,000. It was in Kensington too. And people like no.
They're giving it away.
yeah, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Like,
that place is zombie land.
Yeah. Julio Tarvez Vega, may donuts never become a diminished product. Yeah, I don't know, man. I haven't had a donut.
A cup of coffee here. I gotta drink my coffee every day.
You know, wait, they don't have good donuts in Florida, John?
Then they got some decent shops. They got like Plant Donuts and all of those other ones. I just don't eat them a lot. Okay, what was the one by the 9-4? I used to like that donut shop.
Yeah, is it Pan's? Peter Pan, is it?
Peter Pan, that one.
Yeah,
that one I like an old school donut shop. Like I like that spot.
I like the one in the Lower East Side. You ever go there? Donut Planet? That was pretty cool.
Donut Planet.
Donut Planet, yeah.
Donut Planet, yeah.
Donut Planet I've been to. That one I've been to. There's one there's one right by the 7-8 too. up. I think that
Yeah.
that's one.
Yeah, like across the street from a 7-8.
Yeah, yeah,
At least-
like right by like on the way to the Barclay.
Dunkin' Donuts sucks. I'll
I'm-
take a nice Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme's good.
Krispy
Yeah, I
Kreme
don't
is
like
pretty
that
good.
donut.
Yeah.
That's not even a real donut. Like donut, it's like they're eating plastic. Dunkin' Donuts.
There's a great one in Tampa that I found when I was there. I think it's maybe the salty donut, but they're pretty good too. So if you're in Tampa, I know HFL, you're in Tampa. So
Do you think John Shell gets donuts at the Salty Dog?
You know what's a good spot though? Long Beach Island, Jersey.
Mm.
It's called Sure Good Donuts.
Yes, I know the spot in that
That
circle,
place-
right?
Yeah, dude. That place, they make the donut in front of you.
Yeah.
You tell whatever you want, and then they put ice cream on it. Like that's
Wow.
a good spot.
Beauty of the struggle too says a cop show talking donuts. Yeah, listen. One thing, if there's any skill that's not perishable for me, like leaving police department and being retired over 3 years, I could still drive as fast as possible and not spill my coffee. That was one time I learned, man. Like you know, sometimes it's an 85 or a 13 if you're outside New York City, but that's when a cop needs assistance. Sometimes you throw your coffee out the window, but I learned not to spill my coffee. It could be like, that was like mastering the art. When you got to that point and you could hit 90 miles an hour and not spill your coffee, you made it.
Yeah, I feel like
Let me-
such a sucker that I don't drink coffee anymore. By the way, and I drink I
What?
miss coffee.
You
So
became,
much.
you became a Karen drinking that mushroom coffee.
I'm like cold. I was in New York. I was cold. I was like,
Do you put your
I was,
pinky out too?
I was telling someone the other day. I was like, bro, it was just cold when I was like really cold. And they're like, no, you're just soft now. Like you live in Florida, you're just
Yeah.
soft. He's like,
God,
I
you-
was used to be out in the cold. You had your bald head out there, and you'd be like, nah, it's fine. He's like, and now, he's like, you're weak. I was like, all right.
Sean, do you keep your pinky out when you drink your coffee?
I used to. Sometimes I had espresso. Sometimes.
yeah, you're not a real cop if you're drinking tea on patrol, guys. Okay.
No,
Yourself
that's like
a
Englishman.
cup of coffee. All right. And let me tell you, nothing's better than a cup of coffee. Like no matter how bad things are, in that moment I'm sipping my cup of coffee, it's like the world is all right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could be having a terrible day, shitty day.
Absolutely.
I got
It's
like
that
a
first
bag
sip,
of shit
right?
to
Yeah.
go voucher. But in this 10 minutes I'm sipping this coffee, the world is all right. You know?
Yeah.
That first sip, you're like, the rest is just, it's just like it's like habit. But the first sip, okay.
Yeah. Crazy 10-7 says put up their arrest records. We've done it before. So I mean, go back to those episodes.
We stay in single digits.
Yeah. It's funny when I love it when people like I get like a whole flock of people like coming after me. You were never a cop. You were never this. You were never that. And I'm like, yeah, but if you put all your arrest records together and then multiplied it, I still have more than you. All of you. Like, so it's like might not have been a chief though, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, you didn't have the tools to be a chief.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, I didn't cut my fucking balls off and rip my spine out of my back, so I couldn't have been.
Jeffrey
that
Magic didn't cut his off. He used them.
Yeah. Amazing Ant. May I stress the need, and welcome, Amazing. We've been seeing you. Appreciate you being here.
And thank you.
May I
Good for you.
stress the need for courageous, intelligent, and dedicated leadership. Leaders of sound integrity. Leaders not in love with publicity, but in love with justice. MLK. So, absolutely great. I think we got a few more while we were in here. So, let me go down.
My
Okay.
dog's barking, asking for more coffee and donuts.
All right. It's told to you back when Juju got called out. No smoke with King David. King David. I hate that little bastard. He just got out of jail too, King David. The one I'm
crying
gonna
like
come
a
take your pipe. That one.
Yep, crying like a bitch. King, Little Richard, right? Little Richard.
There you go. Whatever the hell his name is. Yeah, famous Richard. Whatever. Kumite.
Kumite.
And then Kumite. Oh, there you go. Kumite. Yeah. That's Bloodsport.
Yeah, it's for Juju. Kumite.
Bloodsport, right?
What's awesome movie.
That's what it's from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bolo.
Yeah. Crazy 10-7. I eat to know. I'm gonna say you love to know the demographics of people who got discretionary promotions under his previous command that he got put on the grid. I'd love to know the demographics of the people who got discretionary promotions under his previous commands that he put on the grid.
Yeah. Can I see how many Asians are on that grid, please?
Yeah. I'll tell you. let me save it before we get the foil back. 0.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. But that's okay. It's okay. We can discriminate against the Asians. That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And screw those women too. Screw those Hispanic women, right? We don't worry about them.
I feel
Don't
bad
worry about
for
those Asian guys, those Asian women. We need equity, but not just equity for everyone, just equity for us. Oh,
dude, Hispanics are in purgatory. We keep talking about black. We're talking about Asians, whites. The Hispanics are in purgatory, man. I feel bad.
Well, you don't know what they are. I mean, they could be. To be fair, they could be white Hispanics too.
Yeah.
And then they're privileged. Like if you have a lighter, like depending on your skin tone is the amount of privilege that gets assessed to you. So
point.
like you're trying to gender explain people and check your privilege, Tim. All right.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. Apparently, when I was growing up, I was Jewish, but man, I love Santa. I would ask Santa for stuff, but if I would have known, I would have just said, Santa, I'm white. Give me what I want. Because I didn't get shit, man.
Well, you're a Jewish white supremacist, like
Yeah.
Marlon's a black white supremacist, and I'm an Italian white supremacist. So
I gotta tell my mother, man, we fucked up.
Yeah. What else we got? Modern samurai. Life is all about resistance. Either you push through it or you become a victim of it. No one wants to stand in front of everything, and no one wants to stand in front of anything that is relentless. David Goggins. Great. He wrote a great book, actually. He wrote a great book, Goggins. And honestly, the audio book is better than his book because he does it in like sort of like a podcast format. So it's actually pretty great. It's
You Can't Hurt Me, right? That's good.
There you go. You Can't Hurt Me. That was a great book. That was a great book. All right, people.
Bring some more coffee and donuts. We won't go anywhere. I can say it all day.
Look, it's a 3-day weekend. My kids are off. I'm getting nasty texts from my daughter who wants to boss me around now. So I got.
I want to know what Martin Luther King would say right now. If Martin Luther King was on here right now, what would he say about this? He would not be too happy with DEI. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I totally agree. I don't think. I think it goes against. I think it goes against everything that he was preaching. I do. And if he said it, and if he was for it, then he'd be a hypocrite. I'm sorry. So it is what it is. Yeah. All right, people. So I think that's about it, right? I don't think we got anything else for today. I think we covered everything. There's a lot of shit going on that we didn't cover, but I think it was important to look at this stuff. Again, we're not emotionally invested. We don't hate Eric Sanders. We don't hate Winston Faison. We don't hate Corey Pegues. You guys are welcome to come on. That's it. You want to debate it, debate it. Even Juju, even Juju.
I'm not. Listen, I don't hate Juju. There's certain things you deserve a smack for. You start questioning what happened to my son. Now I take that personal. And Juju says I don't live in that state, but hey, I got to go to New York. You never know. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Marlon, Juju, I didn't get my ears playing basketball.
Marlon's 3. Marlon's on 3 today.
All right. I won.
Take his coffee and donuts.
2 warning admonish and 1 CD. That's it.
No, listen, my activity is good. I think the CEO's got me on this one. All right.
Yeah.
Quick housekeeping. Tomorrow on the 10-4 Tavern. It's gonna be a good show, guys. So check it out. Retired first grade detective Mike Pratt and Special Agent Jimmy Glynn will be on to discuss the Cash Money Brothers RICO case. So that should be very, very, very great show because it ties into a lot of celebrities like Lil Kim, 50 Cent, Mike Tyson. So check it out tomorrow, 7:05 p.m. And on Wednesday, Chief Lukash has got the day off. I don't know who signed off on his 28.
I'll ask retired Chief Faison. He probably knows.
But he won't be there. But Inspector Leeson will be interviewing retired Inspector Joe Cortese. Cortez? I hope I pronounced that right. But he's prior CEO of Real Time Crime Center and now works in facial recognition in the private sector. So that should be a pretty great interview as well. So check it out on Wednesday at the usual time, which is 5:05 p.m. So
Good thing you didn't ask John what time it is.
yeah.
All right, listen. With that being said, 3 hours and 38 minutes into it, we talk about stamina. This is Stamina. Great show. And, as I said before on prior episodes, if you have not tuned in yet to 10-4 Tavern, you must. I mean, who's who cast of characters, law enforcement from all over the country, some impressive guests. And also what's great about it, it's a network. On every show is the content information, the social media context for these people throughout the entire country. So utilize this platform as a network. If you're in law enforcement, you're looking to go to another agency, maybe somewhere else, or you're moving to another state, and some of these people are from that state, you can contact them. They'd be glad to help you. So utilize this platform as a network also. Thank you, everyone, today. Again, DEI is not about pointing things out and pointing blame, but it is about identifying what it really is. And it's not to eliminate racism. It's actually manufactured to create more. It's a rebrand. That's exactly what it is. So let's keep talking the truth. Thank you so much, Finest Unfiltered. We appreciate, again, 10-4 Tab, an executive perspective, and New York's Finest Unfiltered podcast. This platform is for you. Check them out. Tom Joyce and Pete Viselli do a hell of a job. Really great book. Marlon just put it up here. If you haven't checked it out, check out Pete Viselli's book. Pete Viselli was really instrumental in Operation Fast and the Furious. So please check him out. John, close us out. 3 hours and 39 minutes. 3 hours and 40 minutes into it. Here we go.
It's told you back when it says there's no black chiefs on the Finest. DEI, baby. Yeah, well, so underrepresented in the leadership of the higher rank. I know we're gonna have to make it even.
Let's just promote. Let's put Marlon on the grid and give him a discretionary promotion on the Finest Unfiltered.
Yeah, just make me assistant deputy commissioner.
That's all.
Deputy commissioner of social media. Deputy mayor of cloud chasing, social media.
And Marlon, apparently you could get a 694 with a 2 at 11 and get you to a 3/4 pension. It'll be good.
And still make you racist. Yeah,
but it's okay. Ask John Shell. It's okay. You can say whatever you want in this life as long as you have money. That's all that matters.
Absolutely. All right, people. Finest Unfiltered, baby. We'll be back at you.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
This is a CBS News special report.
Dan Rather reporting for CBS News from New York. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was shot to death by an assassin late today as he stood on a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King had planned to lead another civil rights march in Memphis next Monday. We got the latest on the story now from Russ Hodge, news director of WREC-TV.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?